There are rumors that these food companies have actually been using brain scans like this to see how eating a Pringle affects your brain and to engineer foods like this to light up your brain in the maximum way possible. This is how sinister this is.
But how do you process that information?
Corruption. The FDA is captured. The NIH is captured. The USDA is captured. Criminal lobbying at the level of Congress. This is the way it works. And they're all connected with pharma. So I think Brian and I need to have an MMA match.
Oh, you're actually being serious. You'd want to do this.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Oh, that'd be fun. Okay.
Oh, this is what you drink?
Yes.
Oh, Pat, all right.
What are you guys laughing at in the back? Bring the drink.
Oh, I
can
got
hear
one.
these guys.
How inspirational would it be to the country if Trump lost 20 pounds or 30 pounds? Because I'm super excited about this Make America Healthy Again movement and what Bobby's going to do. And so my pitch to Trump would be this.
And I think we have the space for it, babe.
I don't think that we could have a cow in our neighborhood.
What about a goat?
I've never done the podcast where in the middle of the podcast, we call my chef Alper and he's talking about what we eat and what's in our pantry. My wife walks in. We brought all these drinks, all the energy drinks. We said, what do you think about this? We went through the ingredients. You got to take a look at this. Snacks, fast food, what should you eat? It was interesting what he said it's okay to eat. Phone, I don't know about you. You know when sometimes you have the phone in your hand for too long and your hand gets hot and it gets warm and it feels weird and you have to go to this place? Wait till you see what he says about that. And then sleep, natural ways of increasing your testosterone level, which was very interesting. And then in the middle of the podcast, he's not a fan of this guy that thinks he's going to live forever, the Brian Johnston guy that he claims he's going to live to what, Rob? 150, 130, 140, whatever the number is. He called him out to a fight in the middle of the podcast. Anyways, we covered a lot. If health is important to you and you want to find a way to live a healthier life, you're going to love this podcast with the one and only Paul Saladino.
Did you ever think you would make it? I feel I'm so close I could taste sweet victory. I know this life meant for me.
Adam, what's your point? The future looks bright.
My handshake is better than anything I ever saw. It's right here.
You are a one-of-one?
My son's right about
I don't think I've ever said this before. I think it's about something to do with Australia. Anyways, folks, today the goal is for us to get healthier. It's very simple. You're here because I'm 46 years old. And I want to find a way to live a healthier life, okay? What we eat, what we can do to increase testosterone naturally, organically, what food is a waste of time. I'm going to bring all the different energy drinks I'm going to go pick up right now, and I want you to look at them and tell me what the ingredients are. Why is it good for you, bad for you? We're going to go through some junk food. This is purely for our employees here. They chose this food that they have in our break rooms, and you need to tell them what's good, what's not, and scare the crap out of them with some of them. And then I'm going to bring my favorite bubble gum that'll come out here that my 11-year-old son the other day we're at the market, we're shopping, and I have it in there to pick it up. And Dylan goes like this, "You're not going to chew this." I said, "Why?" "It's got red dye in it."
I love it.
And the cashier looks at my son saying, "How do you know?" Says, "He can't take this gum." It was so interesting watching 11-year-old doing this. Yeah.
He's ahead of the curve.
At 11 years old, bro.
He's ahead of the curve.
Yeah, so it's interesting. It's great to have you here, man.
It's good to be here. Thank you for having me.
I want to say the last name properly. Saladino?
Saladino.
So Paul Saladino.
Sicilian. Yeah.
Does all the generational chaos of Sicilian come with you, or you're pretty friendly?
No, I'm pretty friendly. Unless you
but
cross
if you cross
me.
the line,
you cross the line.
You're going to be found in a jungle in Costa Rica somewhere.
You could be.
What happened to Pat? He's somewhere out there with the Pumas. So let's get right into it. 2024 election, strange one. Bobby Kennedy starts becoming very popular. Mm-hmm. Everybody's wondering what Bobby's going to be doing. I'm going to run for office. You're running for office? Yes. Never saw that. Want to be a president. 1%, 2%, 5%, 7%. Make America healthy again. Then he walks across with Trump, and he's joining him, and then you have Elon and all the other guys that are combining together. But out of all the things that they talked about regarding to health with Bobby, Big Pharma, Larry Ellison that came up yesterday with the cure for cancer. I'm going to play these clips to get your idea as well. What are you most excited about in regards to health, fluoride, water, all of that? What are you most excited about?
With the Make America Healthy Again movement, I think what I'm most excited about is reform in all the government agencies. What I do is create nutritional content, which is bottom-up, grassroots. Mm-hmm. But we have this incredible moment in our history where the government, maybe top-down, things might get better. And we can talk about it and drill down on any of these ideas, but the FDA has been captured, the Food and Drug Administration, the USDA has been captured, the NIH, the National Institutes of Health, captured. And they're all kind of in the pocket of big pharma and industrial food companies. And that's really led to inordinate amounts of confusion in the public sphere about what is healthy, how to get healthy, how to lose weight, and what food choices to make. And so at a governmental top-down level, which is something I never thought I would see in my lifetime, we have this incredible opportunity to reform those agencies and actually start teaching people, starting with school lunches and the USDA nutritional dietary guidelines, what real food looks like and what really is healthy. And it's not that complicated at all. It's so simple.
So that's good. So progress being made. Now, you know, when I was sitting down with Bobby or even with Vivek, one of the things I asked him about, and you and I briefly talked about it, is what would it take for them to prevent big pharma from being able to advertise, right? Mm-hmm. And if they stop advertising, a lot of industries will be destroyed.
Yeah.
A lot of companies will be going out of business, and some of them will be sold to others, right? Based on you being in this world and you're watching this closely, what are you noticing with possibility of big pharma not being able to advertise, and why do you even support that?
Well, you know that the U.S. and New Zealand are the only two companies in the world that allow pharma advertising on television. It's just an insane thing. Why is a drug company circumventing your doctor, that relationship is sacrosanct? Why is a drug company getting to tell you what you should be asking your doctor about it? I'm a doctor. I'm a traditionally trained medical doctor. So when a patient comes to your office and says, "Doctor, I want this drug," it's kind of hard for the doctor to say no if the drug is in some way indicated. It puts a lot of pressure on the doctor that they shouldn't have. And it's not the right way to do things. And a lot of times doctors who on average get around 7 to 8 minutes with every patient in this insurance-driven model that really hamstrings doctors in a way that's very strange and limits their amount of time with every patient. A lot of doctors are kind of stuck and just say, I just need to give the patient something so they walk out of my office happy, which isn't the way it should be. But that's the situation we've created for doctors. So to stop pharma advertising would simply be incredible. It would be a really great step in the right direction. And whatever companies go out of business, they should be out of business in the first place. They shouldn't actually exist, I don't think.
Yeah. So for me, the biggest thing when you look at health and you're looking at everything, this is kind of how I view it. And I want you to tear apart and disagree with me in any way you want. You'll have somebody sit down here and they'll present their arguments on being a Scientologist or being LDS or being Muslim or being Christian or being whatever their religion is. But I think that's the same way as well with health. You'll have a lot of people who say, well, you got to be a carnivore diet. You got to paleo. You got to do this. Meat only, vegetable only, this only, and I only eat this and I only eat that. To the busy person that's living their lives and they're trying to see, oh, am I supposed to eat this? No, this article says don't. Okay, put this down. Am I supposed to drink coffee? No, it's bad for you. No, it's good for you. So which one is it, right? How does the average person differentiate between who to listen to and not to listen to?
So I think that I'll give you a maxim that I think is very simple for people in the health conversation about how to select a food that's healthy. And we can go from there because your question is well taken. It's very difficult to know who to listen to. So just think about it this way. When you see food in a grocery store, wherever you're eating food, because people eat food in grocery stores, they eat food in convenience stores, they eat food in fast food restaurants. The first rule is just eat a single ingredient food. If you're eating meat and eggs and milk and fruit and vegetables, you will be healthy. I mean, show me the person who eats single ingredient foods and is not healthy. Secondly, if you're eating a food with a label on it, with an ingredient label, if your great grandmother would not recognize any of the ingredients on that label, put it down. And beyond that, you're going to do pretty darn good. That's the simplest maxim you could ever.
If your great-grandmother, so if I take this out, this is Doritos, and what am I looking at? So am I going to here on this side? So whatever it's telling me on the ingredient side, if I don't, you're not talking about the total fat, saturated vitamins, all that stuff.
Just read the ingredients.
Over here.
Yeah.
Well, they make it so small that you can't read
can't
it.
Even read it.
My grandmother couldn't even read it, so she probably would have eaten
You're done.
It. Yeah.
Then you're already done.
So you're already screwed. But so such as what? Like, is there anything you would say? Look for the following 5, 6, 7 things.
Right. So let me just read the ingredients on these mini Chips Ahoy. Right. So you've got this unbleached enriched flour. I don't think your great grandmother would recognize unbleached enriched flour. She would, if it said flour, she might recognize it. But in that unbleached enriched flour is wheat flour plus niacin plus reduced iron plus thiamine plus mononitrate vitamin B1, which is thiamine. And then you got riboflavin as an ingredient. And then you've got sugar, which your grandmother might actually recognize, and we can talk about the ins and outs of sugar. And the next thing is soybean and or canola oil. And your great-grandmother wouldn't even know what soybean or canola oil were because they didn't exist until around 100 years ago. So these ingredients were not even part of the human food supply until 1911 with Crisco. That was from Procter & Gamble. We can talk about seed oils. Then you have palm and palm kernel oil. She probably wouldn't recognize that. Cocoa processed with alkali, maybe. High fructose corn syrup, she would definitely not recognize because that's another very recent ingredient in the human diet. You've got salt. She might recognize salt. Dextrose, baking soda, she would see. Milk, soy lecithin, she would not know what soy lecithin is. Natural and artificial flavor, she would not know what that is. And caramel color. So probably 85% of the ingredients on this label she wouldn't recognize.
So out of all these things here that we see, is there any of these that you would eat and say, this is an okay snack to eat?
There's nothing here that I would eat.
Are you joking?
There's nothing on this table.
So let me just say, so Doritos, you're not eating?
Absolutely not.
Fritos?
Absolutely, no.
Okay, Cheez-It?
No.
They love this though. Cheez-It makes you smile. You said you have to be happy a little bit. So Cheez-It, how about these guys?
No.
This should be good for you.
No, I've never. No.
How about Pringles?
No, definitely not. Those
Why
are
not?
full of
Why
seed
not?
oils. So let's look at the ingredients in Pringles. So you've got, oh man, they make it so hard to read. You've got dried potatoes, all right?
Okay.
Then you've got vegetable oil, which is again, corn, cottonseed, or high oleic soybean, and what does it say here? I can't even read it. They make it so hard to read.
Yeah.
Then it's...
Is that the one here? He zoomed in right there. Rob, can you zoom in a little bit on the screen? The bottom? Okay, there you go.
Yeah. Okay, you got degerminated yellow corn flour, cornstarch, rice flour, maltodextrin, mono and diglycerides. I mean, so the dried potatoes are okay, but everything after that, no one is recognizing 100 years ago.
But why is that bad for you, though? Like, aside from your grandmother not knowing what it is, why is it bad? Like, what's the side effect?
So seed oils are the second ingredient. And do you want to talk about seed oils?
Please, go for it.
Let's get into it. So seed oils are things like corn, canola, sunflower, safflower, soybean, peanut oils. They are oils from plant seeds. The first real seed oil to enter the human diet was 1911. Procter & Gamble made Crisco, right? And that was a seed oil in like a white sort of form that mimicked butter for humans. And then Crisco was part of a big marketing campaign where Procter & Gamble was trying to tell people this is better than butter, or it stays fresh longer than butter. And there was this big confusion that happened. But 120 years ago, humans did not eat seed oils. And this is an interesting point of reference to consider. If you think about the health of humans in 1900, heart disease, which is heart attacks, strokes, all these cerebrovascular issues were a fraction of what they are today. They were vanishingly rare. In 1900, a lot of people don't know this. In 1900, essentially very few doctors had even seen a heart attack in their patient. Obesity was incredibly rare 120 years ago.
So if somebody did have a heart attack in 1900, what was the cause?
There are so many things that could cause a heart attack.
But this is this.
Right. Who knows? I mean, I think that heart attacks were incredibly rare in 1900. People could have had a heart attack because of stress or lack of sleep. Other toxins in the environment could have contributed to a heart attack, like mercury toxicity or heavy metal toxicity.
Yeah, right there it says in the early 1900s, heart attacks rates were significantly lower compared to later decades, as heart disease was not a leading cause of death at the time. Instead, infectious disease like pneumonia, tuberculosis were the meaning heart attacks were considered uncommon in the early 20th century, but saw a substantial rise throughout the century, becoming the most common cause of death by mid-century. What happened in the mid-century?
These foods happened. Processed foods happened. That's the major thing. Plus, we can think about introduction of pesticides, introduction of other foods that are more contaminated with problematic things like heavy metals in the human diet. But at a broad level, ultra-processed foods came into the human diet over the last 120 years. And seed oils came into the human diet over the last 120 years. Food dyes, mono and diglycerides, all of these ingredients that your great-grandmother wouldn't recognize have become part of the human diet, the majority of our diet.
So why did companies use them? Is it purely because it makes the taste better? Is it because it's more enjoyable? Is it because it's more addicting? Is it because of what? What are the three, four, five?
All of the above. They're cheaper. They have a better shelf life. They taste better, and they're more addicting. So recently, evidence has come out, which is, I think we need to corroborate this, but there was a lawsuit that recently was filed. And the lawsuit alleges that many of these big food companies, Kraft, ConAgra, Nestle, actually have been working with scientists to develop foods that are hyperpalatable, potentially even using things like EEGs. So an EEG is an electroencephalogram. It's something we do in the hospital when we're looking for seizures in a patient's brain. But there's the possibility, there are rumors that these food companies have actually been using brain scans like this to see how eating a Pringle affects your brain, and to engineer foods like this to light up your brain in the maximum way possible. This is how sinister this is. And this is, I guess, sort of legal because we have an open food system, and there's nothing illegal about a Pringle. But if these food companies are actually making these foods intentionally to light up your brain and make them hyperpalatable and hyper addictive, we are really being poisoned. It's really pretty crazy.
So let me go into a different. So far was addicting, shelf life, cheaper. What was the other one?
Hyperpalatable and addicting. Yeah.
Okay. Have you ever thought about starting a drink company or energy drink company?
No, because I think that your energy should not need to come from a drink, right? I think that when you have energy, it comes from the mitochondria of your cells working.
Right.
And I don't use energy drinks. I know that people need to use energy drinks, but energy drinks are in some ways a crutch, right? We're using something because we are feeling low, because we're having a crash in the afternoon, because we are not having enough energy, enough mental clarity, enough chutzpah, right?
I remember when we were talking about potentially creating an energy drink, and we flew out and we sat down, we tasted a bunch of different flavors. And then the guy was very honest. He was straight up and he said, look, when it comes down to drinks, people buy it not because it's good for them. They buy it because it tastes good.
Tastes good.
So if you can find a way it's important to make it more taste, that's something that I'm willing to drink it 2-3 times a day, then make me feel like it's somewhat good for me psychologically. I'll feel like I'm compensating for this is good for me because if I take it, I'm getting vitamins, right?
Right.
So if you actually made a drink that was good for you, it probably wouldn't taste good and you wouldn't be addicted to it and maybe you wouldn't even need it.
Exactly. Why do you need an energy drink 3 times a day is the ultimate question there. Why do humans need so many energy drinks? Why are we so tired?
Somebody may say, what's wrong with us? So I just have my guy go and buy a bunch of drinks.
All right.
And I want you to go through one by one. I got Monster. I got vitamin water, which I think 50 Cent was a part of it. And I think even, can you pull up if Kobe and 50 Cent were part of vitamin water? You got Celsius, which is down here in Boca. You got Gatorade, which I want to be like Mike. He drank Gatorade. You got Red Bull, which I have one of the funniest stories with Red Bull. Maybe I'll tell you later.
All right.
So walk us through those drinks, why they're not good for you.
So like you said, in any of these drinks, you're going to find predictable ingredients. In the Monster, because this is not a low-calorie Monster, you're going to find water and sugar as the first ingredients. And look, humans need carbohydrates. And I want to get into sugar with you, when it's good for humans and when it's bad for humans. We'll get into that later in the podcast. But after sugar, the ingredients here are essentially flavorings, caffeine, and a few vitamins. And these energy drinks are basically sweet ways to package caffeine and other sort of fake energy.
Rob, are you on
Yeah.
Monster right now?
Yes.
So, okay, if I look at this right now, vitamin B2, vitamin B3, vitamin B6, vitamin B12.
Right.
260%, 250, 240, 500.
Right.
Marketing-wise, that looks good.
It does.
I'm getting a ton of vitamins, right?
You are.
Okay.
You are.
Then when I get into the ingredients, if you can zoom in a little bit more, which one is that Monster or is that something else, Rob?
That's going to be as close as they let me get.
Is it? Okay, well, let's see if you can find... Well, the one you were on was fine, Rob. Just go back to that one because that was workable. Is that the Monster one?
Yes. Let me zoom in.
Which part of it is not good for you? Like, walk us through the ingredients.
Okay, so first ingredient here is carbonated water.
Mm-hmm.
Carbonated water, pretty benign, right? You take a Pellegrino, carbonated water, no problem.
If you were going to tell me there's side effects with, we would have finished it right now.
Right, then we're done. We're done.
All right.
Carbonated water, I have no problem with. Second ingredient is sugar. So maybe we need to have a little bit of a sugar conversation right now. Sugar is not bad. Sugar is bad for humans, but not because of why you think it's bad for humans. When you strip sugar, which is sucrose, right? Sucrose is a disaccharide of glucose and fructose. When you strip that out of a fruit or out of honey, for instance, you are removing it from a very complex food matrix full of hundreds, if not thousands of other chemicals. And your body doesn't know what to do with pure sucrose. And the problem with pure sucrose is not that it raises your blood sugar. The problem with pure sucrose is that it causes overgrowth of the wrong type of bacteria in your gut, because all of these other hundreds, if not thousands of chemicals that are in a banana or an orange or a strawberry or a blueberry or a raw organic honey actually temper the negative effects of sugar in your body. They prevent overgrowth of bacteria in your gut. So whole foods are things that humans have been eating for hundreds of thousands of years as Homo sapiens, and previously as millions of years as pre-hominid ancestors. And our body and our gut flora know what to do with these. Strawberries don't cause diabetes. Blueberries don't cause diabetes. And I would even say that raw honey doesn't cause diabetes. But sugar is a problem for humans because it affects your gut flora negatively, because it's devoid of all these chemicals, which are naturally occurring in strawberries, honey, etc., that are inherent in the whole fruit, that are essential to balance the gut flora when you consume this. So when you consume pure sugar, you are causing dysbiosis in your gut. And this gets a little technical, but dysbiosis in your gut leads to increased levels of endotoxin in your body. Endotoxin is lipopolysaccharide. That is a gram-negative cell wall component. So gram-negative is a type of bacteria. There's gram-negative and gram-positive bacteria. And a component of the gram-negative bacterial cell wall is lipopolysaccharide. When you have too much lipopolysaccharide in your gut, it moves through the gut into your bloodstream, and you get something called metabolic endotoxemia. The same thing happens when you have high fructose corn syrup. So high fructose corn syrup is made from corn. We can talk about that in conjunction with these multi-billion-dollar corn lobbies that have forced producers to make, or I would say urged producers to make more high fructose corn syrup versus regular corn, versus regular sugar. But any type of processed sugar, I think, is harmful for humans because it affects your gut flora negatively, and that leads to this complex term, which is metabolic endotoxemia. And metabolic endotoxemia leads to dysfunctional metabolism, which is breaking your mitochondria. So ultimately, if we zoom way, way out and we look at human health, metabolic dysfunction, which is also known as insulin resistance, which can also lead to diabetes. It's on the spectrum of prediabetes. This is at the core of so many, I would say the vast majority of chronic disease in humans. 90% of what we spend our healthcare dollars on in the United States is chronic illness. 90% of $4.3 trillion a year is on chronic illness, obesity, diabetes, autoimmune conditions, all of which are preventable or reversible based on what we eat and how we live. So 90% of our healthcare dollars are going to treat, which isn't really treating, it's just kind of band-aiding, illnesses that are completely reversible and are related to things like this, are related to sugar and seed oils in our food. So if we go back to the monster, I'll just finish that one up, guys. Yeah, so we had sugar, and we talked a bit about why that's a problem. The next ingredient is glucose, and the glucose is a monosaccharide. So
if you stay on sugar, by the way, I just want to show this while we're on the sugar topic. I just typed in right now, what's more addictive, sugar or cocaine? This is what came up from Ramsay Healthcare UK. Research on rats has found that sugar is more addictive than opioid drugs such as cocaine, and there can be withdrawal symptoms such as depression and behavior problems when people try cutting out sugar completely. I mean, that addicting more than cocaine?
In animal studies, there are some evidence that it looks like it is very addicting when it's pure sugar. Yes, but strawberries are not addicting, right? Blueberries are not addicting in the same way that pure sugar is.
You don't live in our house. I mean, we have an issue with blueberries.
Oh, that's okay.
We're dealing with it. We're really dealing with it.
But blueberries are so healthy for humans because of all these other compounds that come with it. And I don't think, like I said, in a whole food package, sugar is harmful for humans. Like I said, there is no evidence that honey even causes diabetes. There's actually a randomized controlled trial in humans with diabetics where they gave them up to 120 grams, which is almost 7 to 8 tablespoons of honey per day in diabetics, and their insulin sensitivity got better. So we can talk about all these nuances, but if someone has diabetes and you eat fruit or you eat sugar, your body is not going to handle that sugar well, but the fruit and the honey didn't make you diabetic. It is these other ingredients in these foods that are making you diabetic, or it is processed sugar affecting your gut microbiome.
Explanation. Go back to that one, Rob, where you were at. It said what? It says no honey doesn't cause diabetes, but eating too much honey can increase your risk of developing type 2 diabetes. Honey is a natural sugar that raises blood sugar. Eating too much honey or any type of sugar can have weight gain and increase your risk of developing type 2. Doctors may recommend that people with diabetes avoid honey and other sweeteners until their diabetes is well managed. Do you agree with that?
Not the second part.
Okay.
And
Why
I
is that?
don't think somebody with diabetes needs to be eating a lot of honey, but I want people to understand that honey isn't what gave them diabetes. It's seed oils,
Got it.
which are rich in a omega-6 polyunsaturated fat called linoleic acid, and we'll get deep down the rabbit hole of seed oils. That linoleic acid accumulates in cell membranes and mitochondrial membranes, and that I think is really ground zero for what's causing metabolic dysfunction. But broken mitochondria, which is what we're talking about here ultimately on this podcast, that is what makes people have chronic illness and metabolic dysfunction.
Okay. Let's go back to Monster, Robin. We're going to go through these drinks. If you want to go back to Monster, go for it.
Okay, so then we have glucose. Again, glucose is a monosaccharide. Sugar, sucrose, is a disaccharide. It's fructose and glucose. Citric acid is a preservative. Natural flavors, we don't even know what that is, Pat. Like they can make, natural flavors can be a lot of things. This is part of the problem with the FDA. This is an illustration of how the Food and Drug Administration is captured. In the United States, you have over 10,000 ingredients in our food supply that have come into the food supply through the generally recognized as safe designation, the GRAS designation. And the companies that put these compounds into our food do not have to really do the proper safety trials. They can kind of grandfather them in. And the FDA now allows those companies to say, yeah, we tested it, it's safe, when there really haven't been any safety trials. So we don't even know, I don't even know what natural flavors is. Your grandmother doesn't know what that is.
What two great words to use, though, right? It's like pro-choice, right? The words are pro-life. These are good words. So, back in the days, life insurance used to be called death insurance, literally.
Right.
And they called it to a life insurance. Life is more marketable than death insurance. So people were willing to buy
Right.
life insurance, right? So natural flavor to somebody who's not in that space. They said, honey, don't worry about it. This is natural flavor. So it's effective. It's a good marketing stunt.
You have no idea what that is.
Yeah.
And when we're talking about this verbiage, seed oils have really been rebranded as vegetable oils, which is something we'll get to, right? So there's a euphemism there also. They're not a vegetable oil. They're a seed oil. But vegetable oils sounds healthy. Next, we're going on and we have,
Taurine.
Taurine. So taurine is great. Taurine is a compound that occurs exclusively in animal foods. It's a type of amino acid that has been associated with longevity across species. So taurine is probably great for humans, but guess what? Taurine is in meat. Taurine is in your steak and your hamburger and your chicken, and you get taurine in animal foods. There are no plant foods with taurine. So that's a foreshadowing of the distinction between plant and animal foods for later in the podcast. So there's nothing wrong with taurine. Sodium citrate is another type of preservative. Color added, again, we have no idea what that is. What kind of coloring, how it affects our mitochondria, how it affects the gut
That
flora.
to me doesn't sound like a good thing, period.
Color. Artificial colors. We know the food dyes are problematic.
Yeah. Natural flavors is good. Color added to me doesn't sound good.
Yeah.
Panax, ginseng, extract.
I think that there's evidence that the ginseng may have some benefits in humans.
Okay.
I think Panax ginseng extract is one of the more benign things on this label so far. L-carnitine is, again, another type of amino acid that occurs naturally in foods. You can see the Latin root there, the carnal, the C-A-R-N, like carnitine and carnosine are naturally occurring in meat, and they're beneficial for humans. They're antioxidants. I would rather that someone just eat a steak, preferably grass-fed, grass-finished, to get carnitine, but it's not the worst thing. Then you have caffeine, and caffeine is an interesting one. So caffeine belongs to a series of compounds known as methylxanthines. Theobromine in chocolate is another type of methylxanthine. And these compounds make us, they sort of give us energy in some ways, but they can also make us jittery. They can cause blood sugar swings. They affect adenosine receptors in the brain, and they sort of forestall the onset of feeling sleepy. They don't really do good things for the human body. Caffeine is not a vitamin. It's not essential for our biochemistry. And I would argue that caffeine is sort of borrowing tomorrow's happiness today. This is an interesting expression. Alcohol could also be considered borrowing tomorrow's happiness today. You're taking your bank account and you're bringing it forward. You're saying, I'm tired and I'm going to use this chemical crutch to feel less tired. And you know that later in the day when the caffeine wears off and your adenosine receptors are flooded with adenosine, you're going to feel more tired. Because it's a methylxanthine, caffeine also causes loss of electrolytes in your body, so minerals like sodium, potassium, calcium, magnesium. So caffeine does have negative sort of diuretic effects.
Do you drink coffee?
I do not drink coffee.
When's the last time you had coffee?
19 years ago.
19 years ago.
19 years ago, yeah. When I was in physician assistant school before medical school.
Interesting. Okay, go back to it, Rob, with Monster. Let's see what else we got. So caffeine.
But they have to put caffeine in there because that's why it gives you energy, right? That's why it gives you energy is the
I wonder if it's like across the board with everybody here.
It is. These are all going to be exactly the same. So sorbic acid actually says preservative, Pat. So they were forthcoming there. It's a preservative. Okay. Benzoic acid is a preservative. How much have these been studied in humans? Do we know if these are safe? Do we know how they affect gut flora? Not really. Certainly something your great-grandmother would never have eaten. Niacinamide is a vitamin. It's essentially niacin, which is fine for humans. It's, again, found in many foods, both plant and animal foods. Sucralose is an artificial sweetener, and there are some pretty big problems with sucralose. There are many in the health space who would say that artificial sweeteners are benign for humans, but again, my great-grandmother would not recognize this. And there are studies in animals and humans suggesting that when you consume artificial sweeteners like sucralose or aspartame or ACE-K, which is asulfame K, with carbohydrates, it interferes with your body's normal insulin signaling. So it's not terribly surprising to suggest that when you consume something that your body perceives as sweet but actually has no calories associated, that it would confuse your body at a neurological and metabolic level. Because historically, evolutionarily, humans have always consumed things that were sweet with calories. So honey has calories, a strawberry has calories, a raspberry has calories, a potato, right? A sweet potato, anything you're eating has calories. So these artificial sweeteners are potentially neurometabolically confusing for the body. And we know that they change the gut flora potentially in a negative way. So I do not believe that artificial sweeteners are benign. And so again, we really have to ask the question, what is that doing to humans long term? Salt is fine. Sodium chloride is totally fine. D-glucuronolactone, I'm not terribly worried about that. Inositol, again, some people find inositol to be helpful. Guarana extract it's actually a fruit extract, okay? Pyridoxine hydrochloride that's vitamin B6. Riboflavin is vitamin B2. Maltodextrin is another type of sugar. And the last ingredient is important to note. It's cyanocobalamin, which is a form of B12 that the human body doesn't really like. So there are multiple different types of B12.
That the body doesn't really like?
It's potentially problematic for the body.
Why is that?
Because the cyano is a cyanide moiety. So that's cyanide with your cobalamin. Cobalamin is vitamin B12, but cyano is cyanide. So it's a very small amount, but cyanide we know is a mitochondrial toxin. And whether or not that amount of cyanide is actually problematic for humans remains to be seen, but it probably needs to be studied more. But I'll tell you this. There are many other forms of vitamin B12 they could put in there. Methylcobalamin, adenosylcobalamin, hydroxycobalamin, which are not going to have any problems in the human body. But they choose to put cyanocobalamin because it's the cheapest. And so Celsius actually came under fire for this recently. So I've got a friend who actually called Celsius out for cyanocobalamin, and that was kind of a big deal. But all of these, if they have vitamin B12, will have cyanocobalamin.
So all of them have the same thing?
They all have the cyanocobalamin, yes. There's not a single energy drink that I've ever seen that has methylcobalamin.
So Red Bull says calcium pantothenate?
That's vitamin B5. That's pantothenic acid.
But it just says vitamin B12 at the end. It doesn't explain what kind of vitamin B12
That's cyanocobalamin.
It is. So across the board.
Across the board, cyanocobalamin.
All right, let's see what these guys are. Prime is also same, you're saying?
If Prime has B12, it's going to have
it's the same thing.
Cyanocobalamin.
And actually, these guys say that it is, but Red Bull does not.
Yeah. And again, this is a form of...
What's the difference? What is the difference actually between Celsius, Monster, Prime, and Red Bull?
Not a lot. Probably the amount of caffeine. Some of them are going to use more artificial sweeteners and less sugar, different food dyes. So this Gatorade is going to have some food dye in it. You know, this Monster, we didn't really see any food dyes. We did see artificial color, but they didn't tell us what it was. The Gatorade will list artificial colors. This may have a yellow dye in it. This has yellow number 5. So the Gatorade actually has one of these food dyes that are almost certainly problematic for humans.
How about vitamin water?
Let's see. I don't drink these, so I'd have to look at every ingredient list. I'm sorry, guys. I mean, we can pull this up. It's actually pretty similar to what we've seen on these other ones. These forms of vitamins, some of which are okay, some of which are not great for humans. The vitamin water actually uses fruit and vegetable juices for color. So they're doing a little bit better here. But again, it's not great. They say reverse osmosis water is the first ingredient. Great, they're giving us clean water. The second ingredient is crystalline fructose. So they have to make it sweet, and they're using a pure fructose in this vitamin water. And the problem with this, so fructose and glucose are two monosaccharides. Fructose and glucose together are a disaccharide we know as sucrose. Pure fructose does not occur anywhere in nature. You cannot get pure fructose in nature. Fructose always occurs with glucose. Fruit is connected with this sort of fructose name, right? So fructose occurs in fruit. A strawberry has fructose, honey contains fructose, anything that has sucrose contains fructose. So when they're making a pure fructose in this drink, you're creating something that humans have never seen. And we know very clearly from animal models that when you feed animals pure fructose, it causes dysbiosis in the gut. It causes overgrowth of the wrong type of bacteria in the gut, because in your gut, in your intestines, you need glucose and fructose together for these to be absorbed properly. This is what we've always done as humans. There's no fructose tree, right? You can't just go out and consume pure fructose. But in so many studies with fructose, they will give animals or humans pure fructose, and that gets malabsorbed, meaning more of it stays in the gut, and then you get this problem again, which is dysbiosis. So many things that we are eating are assailing our gut microbiome and changing the balance there.
So here's a question then. What is there anything you've heard Bobby Kennedy, RFK, talk about if he ends up becoming, the one of the most biggest jobs that he's got, $1.5 trillion, I believe the budget is, if I'm not mistaken, it's a big number that he has. If he does, bless you, what can he do that would massively disrupt the sports energy drink business?
I think the food dyes are a good place to start. And I think that, again, right at this moment, we're really hitting the intersection of health policy and business. And that's a tough one because I don't really think anything here on the table is healthy. So if you're doing these things, you are certainly negatively impacting your body. Now, what's the relative effect of that? Could you drink this twice a week and be okay? Probably, but it's cumulative, right? So if you're drinking vitamin water, you're probably also drinking a Monster a few times a week, and then you're probably eating Chips Ahoy once or twice. I'm not passing judgment. I'm just trying to paint a picture. You might be eating Pringles 2 or 3 times a week, and you're maybe cooking with seed oils or going to Chick-fil-A, which cooks in seed oils. You might be getting takeout 1 day a week from a Chinese restaurant that cooks in soybean oil. So you see, this is all cumulative. So any one of these things, could you eat 2 Oreos a week and probably not impact your quality of life? Yeah. But at some point, it's all cumulative. And all of these things contain ingredients, especially the seed oils, which accumulate in our bodies. Some of these things contain ingredients that transiently affect our gut flora, but at some level, if you're consistently eating ultra-processed food with ingredients that your lineage would not recognize from 2 or 3 generations ago, great-grandmothers, you're essentially tonically, consistently affecting your physiology negatively.
Okay, so then the question for me would be the following. So somebody who drinks these drinks, it's part of their lifestyle. They have one a day. Sales offices, guys who feel like they need energy middle of the day, crash at 2, 3 o'clock after they come back from lunch, and you're like, okay, Paul, so let's just say you're saying that. How do I naturally increase my energy? What do I do for me not to have the afternoon crash, for me to wake up a lot of fire and energy? What can I eat naturally to increase energy that doesn't affect me, doesn't affect my health negatively?
So the interesting answer to this question is it's holistic, right? You kind of have to back up. And I can try and brainstorm in the moment and tell you what I would do if I needed more energy, but it's also, you said you come back from lunch and you're crashing. So I'm going to ask you, what did you eat for breakfast and what did you eat for lunch? Because sometimes it's what you want to do for energy, and sometimes it's things you should not be doing earlier in the day that are affecting your energy negatively. So the first thing I would say is, how well did you sleep the night before, right? How much blue light did you have on your phone? How much TV did you watch? How long were you scrolling? How much did you completely disrupt your circadian rhythm before you went to sleep? How dark is your bedroom? Is it really dark? Or is it a lot of lights in, which are changing your sleep quality? Because if you have a bad night of sleep, and again, you start to see that this really is all connected. Everything is connected here. It's hard to say this one thing is the answer. But if you had a bad night of sleep, you're really not going to feel great. You're not going to be as intelligent, as clear thinking as you possibly could be. So from the get-go, you are going to wake up cranky, foggy in your brain. You're going to crave junk foods. And if that's what's in your house, you're going to eat some Oreos. You're going to eat some Chips Ahoy. You're going to drink a Monster or a Celsius before you go to work. And you've essentially already set yourself up for a 2 p.m. crash. There's really nothing you could do to avoid that. And then you're on this hamster wheel. You're on this vicious cycle. You cannot avoid that 2 p.m. crash. So you have to do things as well as you can throughout the day. And I'm not trying to paint a picture that's impossible for people to do. I just want people to understand that it's connected with everything you do.
Okay, so but here's what I want to do. Like I think to everything, when you want to make progress, there's level 1, level 2, level 3,
Right.
level 4, level 5. Okay, the level 5 people will get to, but walk me through some others. Like for me, it started off, July of 2019. I'm having lunch at Breakers Hotel, and my CFO Ian is sitting there, fully in shape. At 46 years old, he ran a 450 mile. And he said that in the interview, and I hired him. He was my CFO for 3 years. And I said, so I noticed you don't drink soda. He says, I don't. I was drinking 3 Coke Zeros a day at the time. And he says, no. He says, 7 years ago, I stopped drinking Coke, and I haven't had any soda since. I said, really? He said, yes. I said, you know what? I'm going to try. And I have a Coke Zero sitting in front of me. We're at Breakers in the lobby. My CIO, David, is sitting there. And I said, you know what? I'm going to go a week without any soda. The last time I had Coke, Sprite, any kind of soda was July of 2019. So to me, that was easy. Just one thing to get rid of, right? Mm-hmm. If you were to make it very elementary, say, if you want to go at least with this, cut this. Number 2 is do this. Number 3 is, and if you're really, really fully committed to level 5 is this, what would you say to people?
Okay, yes. And then I'll answer your question about a natural form of energy.
Yes, please.
So I think liquid calories and soda, that's a great place to start.
Okay.
You've seen it work, Stop drinking soda, number 1, right? But that means diet soda too. So stop drinking any type of soda.
I don't do any soda, yeah.
No soda, no diet soda, no regular soda. And I think in connection with that, why not get rid of the energy drinks, right? So no soda, no energy drinks. What you are drinking is water, spring water, carbonated water, Pellegrino, or a fresh pressed juice. And I think it's fine to drink an orange juice if it's fresh pressed. You want a good quality orange juice.
Keyword is fresh pressed.
Yeah, you want it to be as good as possible.
Okay.
There was recently some stuff that came out. And again, I'm not trying to make this impossible for people. Some stuff came out about some of these packaged orange juices with high levels of PFAs, which are forever chemicals in the juice. So yeah, you want to get a juicer. You want to make your own juice. You can add some cucumber juice in there, whatever you want. But liquids should be water. We can talk about tea and the potential upsides and downsides of tea.
For sure, yeah.
I just did a post on this. So some tea bags actually release a significant amount of microplastics into the water. So, but let's just start with the liquids, right? So just cut out soda and energy drinks and you're doing amazing.
1.
Yeah.
How about tier 2?
Then you want to think about this kind of stuff, snacks. So don't do any of these kind of snacks, right? Any snack between meals has to be fruit or something that's less problematic.
Even almonds are not good.
Read the ingredients.
All right. Again, they make it impossible to read it, right? What is the ingredients? Rob, can you pull this up? Because I can't even see where the ingredients are.
Could you tell me the brand, if you don't mind?
Kirkland
almonds.
Kirkland dry roasted almonds.
Yeah, dry roasted almonds. If you want to see this yourself. Is that the one?
Okay.
Almond, sea salt, peanut oil.
What's the last thing on that list?
Peanut oil.
It's a seed oil.
Okay.
So that's a problem for humans.
Got
I
it.
think. Yeah. Because almonds and salt, right? Those are ingredients your great grandmother would recognize.
Peanut oil, no.
She would not know what that is.
Got it. Okay.
So again, yeah, and we'll break down the whole seed oil thing because it's very contentious.
Okay, so tier 1, soda, diet or regular, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2 is any kind of, and by the way, including energy drinks, cut it out.
Right.
2, you're saying anything like this, chips,
right?
Even the almonds with the peanut oil in it. What else?
Snacks for level 2. Snacks should be things like fruit or cheese. Again, so make your snacks things that you're great. Cheese, yeah.
What kind of cheese?
There's a lot of good cheeses out there. Not Kraft singles, right? Not American cheese because it's not actually really cheese. They can't call it cheese. But if you go to the grocery store and you buy any cheese that's actually really cheese, that's much better than any of this right now. Unless
give me be
cheddar,
specific.
Cheddar cheese, Munster
cheddar
cheese.
Cheese, what brand?
I mean, I would love a raw cheddar cheese. If you really want to get good on cheese, let's have a raw cheese, an unpasteurized
Can we just look
cheese.
at it just to kind of...
Yeah, of course.
I know we're not getting no sponsorship money here, but it's the ultimate way because we're just... So raw cheddar cheese.
Yeah, so this one, I like this one down there. You saw it from Raw Farm. They have a raw cheddar cheese. Yeah, I know these guys. I've been to their farm in California. I've seen them. So I've been to the farm that makes this. I've been to their dairy.
This is good.
This is great.
Okay.
I've been to their processing. I've seen this cheese being made, which is why I like them.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So cheese, raw cheddar cheese, great. So tier 1, we got tier 2, we got what's tier 3? I'm a little bit more committed. What do you challenge me to do?
I think when you get to tier 3, you have to start thinking about removing processed foods from your meals and cutting out fast food at your meals. So we started with drinks, we went to snacks, then let's go to your meals. You got to stop eating junk food and fast food at your meals. So tier 3 would be don't ever eat at a processed food, fast food restaurant for your meals.
What fast food restaurant can I go to if I'm somebody that's super busy, I don't have time to prep my meal, I just want to go somewhere that's healthy, eat it and leave? What would you recommend that somewhat, qualifies it as healthy for you?
So there's a couple of ways you can hack this. If you go to a fast food restaurant and you get a burger that without the bun and without the sauce, you can get like lettuce and tomatoes, but don't get the burger with the bun because the bun has, in many cases, 40 to 50 ingredients in a bun, Pat. It's crazy. You can't go to Chick-fil-A. So Chick-fil-A is completely off the menu, but you can actually go to Five Guys. I was in the airport yesterday and a guy said, hey, I just went to Five Guys. And I said, okay, what'd you get? And he said, I got a burger with just lettuce and tomato. I was like, that's great. That's actually not bad. A lot of these restaurants don't cook the hamburgers in seed oils. They're cooking it on a griddle. They're cooking it in the animal fat. Look, the meat in that burger could be better quality. We're just painting a continuum here. But if you get the burger without the bun and you just get like animal style burger, or that's not the right terminology. It's just like the paleo burger, whatever. No bun, no sauce, because all the sauces at these places have high fructose corn syrup or these pure sugars that are harmful for the gut, or they have seed oils. You can do okay. So if you're absolutely in a rush, you can go to In-N-Out and get 5 burgers and lettuce and tomato. I'm not a fan of the cheese because it's going to be American cheese and that has its own issues. But look, if you get burgers at In-N-Out with American cheese, you're doing way better than the fries cooked in peanut oil, and you're doing way better than the bun.
Okay, cool. So third phase is anything fast food, drop that from your diet on what you're doing because that's processed food.
Processed food.
What's tier 4?
I think at tier 4, we're starting to go to grocery stores for the majority of our food, and you're actually cooking for yourself most of the time. And at that point, you can start to think, okay, I'm going to eat the majority of my food as single ingredient foods. That's such a powerful level, Pat. So if you eat most of your food as foods without labels, you're going to be healthy, hands down. It's impossible not to be healthy. As long as you're eating some meat and some plants, you're going to be healthy eating single ingredient foods. And these are things like meat. I don't care what kind, chicken, fish, pork. Yeah. Any of these foods are fine. Eggs, milk, even if I'm a fan of raw milk. That's a whole separate conversation, but you want to do regular milk, fine. But single ingredient foods, that's so powerful. So I would say tier 4 is do 60 to 70% of your food as single ingredient foods. Now that comes with an onus, and that is the responsibility that you have to cook these things.
Okay.
And you have to prepare.
All right. So what's the last one? Because you said phone, you said watch time, light, sleep.
Right.
What would you put as tier 5?
Well, is tier 5 the ultimate?
Well, if you have another one, we can go to. No, it's up to you. What would you put that as tier 5?
So tier 5 is just eating very, very well, right? And then tier 6 and 7 might be thinking about the lifestyle. I'm food focused. So we've only thought about food. We can keep going in terms of the lifestyle stuff later, but just think about your food. I want people to have, like you said, I like this perspective. Let's make it simple and straightforward. Hey guys, I am Paul Saladino. You can find me on Manect. If you have any questions about diet, health, recovering from chronic illness or autoimmune disease, I'm excited to connect with you guys all there, and I'll see you in there.
The way this question was started is we're looking at these energy drinks, and then I asked you, so, hey, how do I replace this with natural? And then you said, hey, half the battle is, your sleep, your phone, how long you're watching, your bed, how dark is it, your bedroom, is there lights available? So naturally, what can I do to increase my energy? Any of that stuff you want to cover, I want to hear all of it.
So sleep. So the 2 biggest levers, I think, for humans are food and sleep. And sleep is a huge thing, and it's often underrated. It's not sexy. It's almost become sexy to say that I don't need sleep. And I think that a lot of people could perform better if they had more sleep. I don't know how Donald Trump does it. He's a force of nature. I've heard he sleeps 4 to 5 hours a night. I can't do it, right? I can't do it. I mean, you and I were in DC for the inauguration. I went to a ball one night. I was up until 1:30 in the morning. I went to the Maha ball the next night. I was up until 1:30 in the morning. That is not my normal at all. I never do this. So my circadian rhythm was completely messed up. But most of the time, my intention is to get to sleep at the same time of night every night. So getting a specific bedtime, it doesn't have to be a certain time, but you want it to be about the same every night. You don't want to really vary when you go to sleep. So if you want to go to sleep at 10 or 10:30, go to sleep then and make that your consistent bedtime. most of the time I'm in Costa Rica, I go to sleep around 8 or 8:30. I go to sleep very early because the sun goes down at 6. I'm by the equator, and I have 2 hours of darkness before I go to sleep. And I'm thinking about the lights in my house. And we'll talk about lights in a minute. But then I'm getting up whenever my body wants to get up. A lot of people have to do alarms, but 99+% of humans really benefit from getting 7 to 8 hours of sleep a night. We have to do that. And I know that there are constraints, children, and all of these demands on our time. But if you can get 7 to 8 hours of sleep every night, you're going to show up better for your family, for your kids. You're going to be kinder to your spouse. You're going to be more patient with your children. You're going to be better at your job. There's studies that people who sleep more earn more because you're so much more productive and you're so much sharper and better at your job. When I was in medical school, there was this culture of, I'm going to pull an all-nighter. That's the worst thing that I could have ever done. And I don't think I ever did it once in medical school, because you're not going to do as well as you think you're going to do on the test. You don't need to study more. You need for your brain to sleep. We require sleep as humans. So protecting your sleep is so critical. And that means having bright lights during the day and darkness at night. So bright days and dark nights, that is a pattern that is associated with longevity. But you think about where we live now as humans. We live in like eternal gray. And we're starting to get into lifestyles, so it's a shift for people to think about. But how many of us are spending a significant amount of time outdoors? We spend 94+% of our time indoors as humans, and in your car counts as indoors because none of the infrared radiation from the sun is benefiting you when you're behind those glass windows in your car. So it's really this whole huge shift, but we need to be outdoors more during the day. And you want to start your day with bright sunlight in your eyes. You want to get outdoors. And I'm not saying look directly at the sun. I'm not telling people to harm their eyes. I'm just saying you need to be outdoors without sunglasses on in the morning. This is how you set your circadian rhythm.
Let's talk about the sleep. Okay.
Yeah.
And you said something about Trump, 4 hours, 5 hours,
Yeah.
right? One day, one of these guys buy me this ring, and they say, "Pat, can you put the ring on, or a ring,
Yeah.
to see how much sleep you need and whatever you're doing?" And they'll notice my pattern, and so you're only getting 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours, but the Oura ring showed that I'm in REM longer than other people are in REM,
Okay.
faster. So somebody may sleep 8 hours, but they only go REM for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, and I'll go REM. No problem. And the levels of it, obviously, that you go through. So then there's this article. I'm just going to, Robbie, if you can just pull it up. There's an article that talks about it, and tell me what you think about this. Gene identified in people who need little sleep. Scientists identified a gene that causes people to naturally sleep less than 6 hours and a half.
Right.
And without any apparent ill effects. The findings reveals a mechanism affect quality sleep, and suggest an avenue to investigate for new sleep treatments. Getting enough sleep is important. Healthy sleep. Go a little bit lower, Rob, to see what's the gene that he's talking about in here. Where is it? Previous studies have shown that. Okay, there it is. Using whole exome genome sequencing, the researchers researched for gene mutations that only the naturally short sleepers had. They found a rare mutation in the ADRB1 gene that was being passed through the family. Family members who inherited one copy of this mutant gene had a shortened sleep cycle. The ADRB1 gene codes for the B1 adrenergic receptor are found on many cells in the body and respond to hormones, including those known to regulate sleep-wake cycles. So what do you say when some people, you watch them, this guy's 78 years old going on 4 hours. Is it because of a special gene they have? What's the reasoning? It's not like President Trump's diet's better than yours.
No, it's not.
Because he's a big fan of McDonald's.
But I want to work with him, Pat. This is the ultimate goal. Like, how incredible would it be if
you think
Trump,
he's going to listen to you?
I hope so. I don't know if he would, but I would love to see.
You know why he won't? Because in the way he is wired is for 78, it's worked for him.
Know.
He fears that even if he listens to you, it may make it messed up for him. That's probably how he would think. But are there people that, because of their genetics and their DNA and their wiring, they just don't need sleep as much as another person does?
It's very rare.
Okay.
It's very rare. Like I said, less than 1% of the population.
So I'm with that. I can see it being less than 1%.
Yeah, very rare. Maybe Trump has it. I hope he does. Because we need him to function well. We need Elon to function well. We need Vivek and JD Vance. We need these guys to function well. But yeah, I hope that at some point I get to help these guys lose weight. I'll just say this because I think it would be so cool. How inspirational would it be to the country if Trump lost 20 pounds or 30 pounds? Because I'm super excited about this Make America Healthy Again movement and what Bobby's going to do. But to work with JD or to work with Trump, like millions and millions of Americans would be so inspired if they lost weight. And so my pitch to Trump would be this: Mr. President, you never have to eat a salad. I can help you lose 30 pounds and you get to eat steak and apples and fruit.
You're funny.
All the time.
You're funny because have you seen the picture? And I want to go back to this gene for sleeping. So I want to identify this. Have you seen a picture of him on the Trump, his plane, and him, Bobby, and they're all eating Big Macs?
Oh, my God.
And Bobby's face right there is the best. Look at this here. So it's Trump, it's Speaker Johnson, Jr., Musk, and zoom in on Bobby's face. Zoom in on his face, Rob. Look how, keep going, Rob.
That's as close as I can get.
He looks miserable, and then look at Trump's face. He looks so happy.
He's so happy.
His face. But even next to Bobby, you see Coke, right? You see different things that he's got there. And next to Trump, is that orange juice? What is that?
Orange
Rob?
soda in the background.
Okay, orange soda.
So let me tell you about this photo.
Let's hear it.
I went to DC for Maha and I brought Bobby food. And the security wouldn't let me actually hand him a bag, but I gave him a bag of food. The same kind of stuff I brought for you.
Right.
And I'm not here to plug my products. I don't care about this. But I brought him these things. I brought him jerky with just grass-fed meat and vinegar and salt. I brought him protein powder this is a company that I built called Lineage. Yeah. So, and again, I'm not trying to plug my products. I brought these for you to try.
Right now.
So I brought these for Bobby. I brought this to DC for him and I gave his security a bag of this stuff because I wanted him to have healthy foods on the go because I never want this to happen to Bobby again. I never want him to get stuck. I never want another photo like this to happen with Bobby in my lifetime. You should try this one too. So those are meat sticks that you're eating. And look at read the ingredients on that, Pat. Like we were reading ingredients,
Okay, so this one.
Oh, you can read, let's start with the air-dried steak because it's so simple.
This one?
Yeah, look at the ingredients on that.
Which one? You want me to read it here?
No, just the ingredients below
there. It's 100% grass-fed beef.
Yeah.
Organic apple cider vinegar, salt.
That's it.
Red dye. I'm kidding. I wanted to see your reaction.
But would your grandmother recognize those ingredients?
She would.
Yes.
God bless her soul. I think both of them would recognize
They
it.
would recognize it. And that was the reason I built this company, was to kind of fight back against big food by making foods like this more convenient for people.
And it's not even dry. Why is it not dry?
Because the quality of the meat is so good. It's air dried.
Oh my God. I thought it was going to be like those dry. This is dried and this is delicious, easy to chew on.
It's amazing.
Air dried steak classic.
And again, this is it's grass-fed, grass-finished meat. So this is possible. I want people to understand this is possible.
Where can people find this?
It's online. So lineageprovisions.com.
Okay, let's put the link. 16 grams of protein, 4 servings per.
Yeah.
So really, this is 64 grams of protein.
64 grams of protein in that bag. 64 grams.
Oh my God, it's delicious.
Of animal protein. Yeah, I'll get you more.
Wow. And okay, please. So let's go back to, if you don't mind, I want to, in this part here with Trump and Bobby and McDonald's and what he does, I saw your video 10 months ago where you're talking about McDonald's. You walk in there and you'd have the quarter pounder. I think you have the quarter pounder and the fries, and you show the fries has 18 different ingredients. You're like, why do you need 18 different ingredients? But then you see Trump goes out there and works fast food and makes the fries, and he brings all the eyeballs to it. Go back to sleep, okay? Sleep.
Yeah.
From the people that you've met, some people are going to say, I'm one that can go without sleep, okay? And they're not. And some people know they can, and typically everybody around them knows they can. And they'll say, look, I can't hang like the way you hang, right?
Yeah.
But the people that can go on 4 to 6 hours, not only do they know, the people around them know because it's abnormal, right?
Probably, yeah.
But to the average person, sleep, phone, how much of somebody being on the phone at night before they go to sleep on 2 hours does it hurt them with their energy the next day?
It's very disruptive. So phones, again, we're getting a different rabbit hole, but this is fascinating. Phones are very addictive and they're very problematic for sleep for a number of reasons. On your phone at night, it's a very small phone, so your eyeballs have to focus in on it, and it's flickering. Phones flicker around 480 hertz, so 480 cycles per second, and that flicker rate, I think, is particularly disruptive for the human circadian rhythm and our sympathetic nervous system. You ever been on, at night when you're on the highway and the police come by and maybe they don't even have their sirens on, but you see their lights flickering? You are drawn to that like a moth to a flame. The human eye, the human brain is drawn to flickering lights like nothing else. We cannot ignore it. This is Vegas, right? You have flickering neon lights. You can't look away. And so this is purposefully designed in the phone to keep your attention on the phone. And that flickering light is, I think, disruptive for our sympathetic nervous system. This is the fight or flight nervous system. Flickering lights, not at the phone level, but like flickering lights are used in medicine to induce seizures in humans in those patients that are susceptible to epilepsy. So flickering lights, we know, can be stressful for the human body, can be stressful for our nervous system. And we are, almost all of us, and I'm not immune from this, right, are looking at our phones right before we go to sleep, and we are looking at flickering lights, and it is affecting our nervous system and is affecting your sleep. You should be able to go to sleep, to get in your bed and fall asleep within 5 minutes, 3 minutes, you should be out. If you are laying in bed asleep and you cannot fall asleep, there is a problem with something in your life. It could be your diet, it could be your light environment, but I would encourage people to think about light as a food also, and light as a nutrient. And when you are ready and you want to clean up your light environment, it is so powerful for your light also, for your
what should one do with their phones next to their bed before they go into sleep?
Well, your phone shouldn't be next to your bed. It definitely should be on airplane mode. You should be charging it away from your bed. You should not have your phone sitting next to your bed. I mean, this gets into the conversation around EMF, right? So RF EMF, radio frequency EMF, is what's coming out of your phone and what's coming out of your Wi-Fi router. But by far, the biggest exposure that humans get to radio frequency EMF is from your phone. So you look at my phone, you see how it's on airplane mode. Everywhere I go, I don't need to be on my phone right now, we're doing a podcast, but everywhere I go, unless I'm on the phone, my phone is on full airplane mode because I don't want to be exposed to extra RF EMF. And this is a very contentious issue. I've talked about this and gotten fact-checked and censored, and people will say RF EMF is non-ionizing. It's not harmful for humans. And there are literally hundreds, potentially more than 1,000 studies on radio frequency EMF suggesting that it could have damage to human tissues. Not at the same level that an X-ray would be or something that's ionizing, but at the level of receptors and channels and ions in the cells and DNA damage and low levels of oxidative stress. So the issue is this: we simply do not know how harmful this is to humans long-term. We don't have the studies, and cell phone companies are really suppressing this data, and they're not really looking for this in a enthusiastic manner. So there is evidence in humans, this is associational observational evidence, that men who walk around with their cell phones in their pockets have lower sperm counts and lower sperm motility. And there's evidence in a petri dish that if you put a cell phone and you put sperm in a petri dish above the cell phone, that the sperm motility changes and they look like they're not as healthy. So RF EMF.
Can you please say, please don't try this at home, folks. He's just telling this that's scientific. I don't want some people to go test this out.
Don't put your sperm in a petri dish.
That's what I'm saying. You're going to say people right now, they're going to pause the video, go to the bathroom and just...
Go do it. That's fine with me. Like, let me know what you guys find.
Let me do a video. I was watching a Paul Saladino video with PBD and decided to go to the bathroom, and this is what happened to it.
Send
Watch,
us a video.
10 people are going to do it.
Yeah. No, but there's evidence of this, and I can send you the study if you want to put it in the show notes. But
I just want to make sure you take ownership if people do it and they post it. That this was your idea.
It's my idea.
So let me ask you a weird question with this, because I'm curious to know what you say with this. So, for us, I'm in business. I've been in business for a long time. So I'm the guy that Nextel calls me one day and I'm on the phone with them. We're talking Nextel days, which is 20 years ago, 19 years ago. And they asked me a question. I'll never forget this. They said, can we ask you, we got a group of us, we are really trying to find out what you do with your phone. I said, what do you mean? How did you send 51,000 text messages this month? And to them, that was the highest one. So they're like, we've never seen this before. So I said, what do you mean? I have this group text for this. I have that group text for this. And I'm driving sales team and I'm doing this. But they said 51,000. I said, just go look at it. You have access to it. So they were looking at it. So me driving, you're here, your access, your data, all this other stuff. One of the things I noticed happening just a few weeks ago was my hand was getting hot. Okay? Not the phone was hot. My hand was getting hot. That I switched to the left hand, right? Just because this hand was getting hot, okay? What is that from? Where you're feeling a little bit of tension and your hand getting hotter, and it's even a little bit when you're trying to flex it or go like this, you feel a little bit of pain.
You feel something. You probably need to see a psychiatrist. No, I'm joking. That's what somebody would say, that you're crazy. But I've had this subjective experience also. Yeah. If you look online, a lot of people feel this. When they're holding your phone, you feel something in your hand. What is it? It's probably related to these RF, so radio frequency, EMF, that energy coming off your phone. So RF, EMF, This is like, your phone is essentially a little microwave, Pat. I can take an EMF meter and show you the RF EMF coming off your microwave, which is essentially exactly the same frequency coming out of your phone. It's the same. Your phone is a little microwave. And the problem with this radiation is that when you have a lot of it, it heats tissues up. But at a low level, we really fully don't know what this is doing to all of these cells in your hand or on your head, in your ear, or your salivary glands in your mouth, or in your testicles if you're carrying your phone next to your balls, or a woman carrying her phone next to her ovaries, or in a sports bra next to mammary endocrine tissue in the breast. We do not know what this does long term.
3 days ago you could have said, or a woman carrying her phone next to her testicles, but
there are only two genders.
I want to qualify so the audience not confused.
Thank God.
Things have changed. Yeah.
Thank God.
But yeah, so
I'm happy about that.
That's the part where I'm holding. I'm like, what is going on with this, right? And you're kind of feeling it. Sleep. Stay on sleep. By the way, I'm eating this because it's really that good. And
so
he's not paying me for this. I'm just telling you guys I like this a lot.
It's good stuff.
My mouth is full. So, but let me tell you this here. I'm 46. In my 30s, I'd sleep through the night. In my 40s, I have to wake up once to go to the bathroom every night. Okay? And a lot of my friends deal with that as well. Vinny and I were talking about this. Some are 1, some are 2, some are 3 that they go through a night. One, is that just you're aging? 2, what can you do to not go through it? Don't drink a lot of water before you go to sleep. What is it to do to make sure you sleep through the night without having to go to the bathroom?
So I hate when people say you're getting older. So this is the response. This is the party line in medical school. Your patients are getting bullshit. It's absolute like it's not that you're getting. If your doctor ever tells you because you're getting older, you got to find a new doctor. It's because of something you're doing in your life most of the time. With nocturia, which is nighttime urination, there are a couple of things that can happen. You can have a prostate issue. The prostate can start to get a little more swollen, which is not a normal thing to happen. Like if you are a healthy human, your prostate should not be getting swollen in your 40s and 50s. And also, I think that if you want to pee less at night, it is important to drink the majority of your water in the first 10 hours of the day. Water, fluid, at all. So if you get up, say you get up at 6 a.m., you really want to be done with the majority of your water by 4 p.m.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, 4 p.m. Yeah.
Wow. So after 4, you shouldn't be drinking water.
If you got up,
if you got your water up front.
If you got up at 6 a.m. So first 10 hours of the day, you want most of your fluid. And, really independent, and I did a piece of content about this on my Instagram, and I think I did a YouTube video about it also. It doesn't really matter your body weight. Humans need about the same amount of fluid every day. It really is about 8 to 10 glasses of water, but it can also be other fluids. So in a day, I'll drink raw milk, I'll drink orange juice that's fresh squeezed, and I'll drink water. And it really is about 8 to 10 glasses of fluid per day, but that can be mixed, right? It doesn't have to just be pure water, but you want to get the majority of that in the first 10 hours of the day and then taper off toward the end of the day. And then you have to remember, like I said earlier, caffeine is a diuretic and some other foods are diuretics. So if you're drinking your coffee at 2 p.m. because you're getting the lull, you're going to have peeing at night. The other thing to understand about caffeine is this, and I didn't mention it earlier, and I'm glad I'm thinking about it now. The half-life of caffeine is about 5 hours, which means that if you drink coffee at noon and you go to sleep at 10 p.m., about a quarter of the caffeine is still in your system. So imagine that. You drink coffee at noon and you still have, say you have 1 cup of coffee at noon, it's 200 milligrams of caffeine, which is normal. That's like a big glass of coffee at Starbucks. You have 1 big Starbucks at noon, a quarter of that caffeine, 50 milligrams of caffeine, is still in your system, affecting your sleep architecture when you go to sleep at 10 p.m. So it's important to understand that caffeine sticks with you. In order to get rid of a substance in medicine and pharmacokinetics, we think 4.5 half-lives. If the half-life of coffee is 5 hours, give or take, you would need, upwards of 16 to 18 hours to get rid of all that caffeine. And there's only 24 hours in the day.
Yeah.
So
Go ahead.
The concern for me is that a lot of people are drinking coffee too late in the day, and that is affecting your sleep architecture negatively.
Well, we have a friend whose name is Mario Aguilar. We have come to a conclusion, Rob, he's a little bit off. And he does very well with us. And he's been working with me for almost 20 years, 19 and a half years. This guy drinks 6 cups of coffee a day. He drinks a double shot of, what is it? It's not espresso. What is the one that he does? Double shot of, I think it is espresso. Before he goes to sleep at night at 9 o'clock. He sleeps to heavy metal music, okay?
Okay.
And it does nothing to him. So Mario, you're weird when it comes on to coffee. None of us drink as much coffee as you do. However, to the rest of us in the world, the last time I drank coffee was I was 25 years old. I was giving a sales presentation in Encino on Victory and Balboa right across the street from Birmingham High School. And I drank 2 cups of coffee. I went in there, I gave the talk. I said, I can never drink coffee ever again. The last time I had it, I was 25 years old, and I'm 46, so I don't do coffee. It's bad for me.
Do you do caffeine?
It was caffeine. Yeah, when I had it, was caffeine.
But do you do caffeine now? Do you drink things with caffeine? Is that caffeinated tea or is that?
So I want to ask you this question.
Yeah.
This is where I'm going to. And I said, this is the one question I don't want to ask you. If you see this question, it's because I took a risk. Because I'm going to hear it from my wife. That's going to say this, and please don't share this with my wife. All right, here we go.
All right.
I love Arnold Palmer.
Okay.
And I do 80-20.
Okay.
Arnold Palmer, the real one, the golfer, we met, God bless his soul. We met him at a restaurant called 610 Magnolia. And I don't like golf, and I don't golf. So I come out, I said, are you Arnold Palmer? He says, I am. He said, I got to tell you, man, most people probably compliment you on your swing. You have the greatest drink in the world, okay? But I do 80-20, 80 iced tea, 20 lemonade.
Uh-huh.
And if I go to a restaurant, I will have 3, 4, 5 glasses of Arnold Palmer, 80-20. Tell me why scientifically this is amazing for me so I can continue to drink Arnold Palmer. And please, make sure you get your facts right, because I won't be too happy about it if you tell me it's not good for me.
So just so I know, because I've never had an Arnold Palmer, there's no alcohol in this drink.
No, it's just purely iced tea and lemonade.
Iced tea and lemonade.
Yes.
Okay. So can we talk about tea for a minute?
Sure, please, go for it.
So I did a reel about this recently, and it went pretty viral. So I want to mention this to people. You need to know what's in the tea bags, because some tea bags release massive amounts of microplastics into your tea. And they're making iced tea, so they're not brewing it with hot water, presumably, which may make a big difference in a positive way. But when people are making hot tea, anytime you're putting hot water onto plastic, it's a very bad idea. But I was really surprised to learn that even the cellulose tea bags use some sort of plastic to seal the bag. The worst tea bag in the study were the plastic tea bags. Have you seen these? They're kind of like pyramidal tea bags. They're kind of fancy tea bags.
Yeah, of course. Yes.
They're made from plastic. And those tea bags released a massive amount of microplastics. Microplastics have gotten a lot of press recently. They're in our testicles, they're in our ovaries, they're in our brains.
Right.
There's some non-zero amount. Yes, those tea bags.
Yep.
Those release, according to the study, billions of plastics of microparticles into a tea that you're brewing. So that looks really fancy, right? Like that plastic tea pyramid looks very fancy, but that is a very big problem in terms of microplastics. And again, throughout this podcast, I just want to say this to people. Do not let perfect be the enemy of good. I'm just giving you guys ideas, and people can incorporate them however they want in their life. I'm not trying to make an impossible standard for people, but I think knowledge is power. Know better, do better. So know what's in your tea bag and use tea bags that are lower microplastic. Or I think if you're going to have tea, use a loose leaf tea that you are brewing in a tea basket. Have you seen these like stainless steel tea baskets? You can use a loose leaf tea. That would be the best way to do tea, because tea is a pretty big exposure for people in microplastics. And I was not aware of this until I found this article recently. So I'm hoping your Arnold Palmer is probably not the worst thing in the world, because
oh my God, this is like
because it's
great news.
Because it's iced tea, right? If they're not, but sometimes people make iced tea, they brew it with hot water and then they chill it. So if you're actually making iced tea and you're just using a tea bag and cold water, you're going to release less microplastics. It's okay. The problem with the Arnold Palmer is, when are you drinking it in the day and how much caffeine is it? And is that affecting your sleep architecture negatively? And the only way to really know this is to do something like an Oura ring or a subjective analysis of this and say, how do I feel without caffeine if I'm sleeping? How does my sleep feel in terms of restorative quality?
Almost 90% of the Arnold Palmer I drink is after 6 p.m.
Okay.
I got you.
So
that's the problem.
It could be affecting your sleep quality negatively, but I'm glad you're not drinking a monster after 6 p.m.
No, there's no way in the world I can do something like that. Okay. So by the way, I brought my vitamins. Okay, we had once a year I host a conference called the Vol Conference for business owners, executives around the world that come. 2 years ago, we had Tom Brady at the event. Last year, we had The Rock at the event. Nearly 6,000 people showed up. This year, we're doing it at the Gaylord Orlando. We're expecting 12,000 people to be at the event. And executives, private equity, hedge fund, salespeople, sales executives. And this last year, a friend I've known since I was 23 years ago, Manny Soda, says, Pat, what vitamins do you take? Are you on TRT? Are you on this? Are you on that? Are you on this? I said, I'm not on TRT. I was on TRT 5 years ago for 6 weeks, but I had a breakout and my body was so hot on that I couldn't go to sleep. I'm like, I can't do this because I'm already hot. To add that, it even elevated. So 6 weeks, I said, I'm out. I'm not touching this. These are the vitamins I take.
Okay.
I want to show it to you.
Yeah.
And I try to take these every day. I don't get to them every day, but the goal is to take these. Tell me what you think about the vitamins I'm taking and say, I don't think you need this. This is a waste of time. This is good that you're taking this.
So I'm going to look at this, but I would also have to see the food that you're eating in a day, right? Because food is primary for me.
So I'll tell you what I do. So in the morning, breakfast, I only eat breakfast on Saturdays and Sundays. Every day I start off with a protein drink that I take.
What's the protein drink?
Can you pull up the protein drink I take, Rob?
I hope there's no natural flavors in there, Pat.
At this point of the game, I know what's going to. By the time I'm done with you, I can't eat anything at all, period. That's not it, Rob. Protein shake. Is that the milk? Type in whoever is back there. Kelly, if you have one of the protein drinks, no, you don't have them.
I'm going to send you the protein from Lineage. So this company, we also make a protein powder.
Okay.
And I made it so that I would drink
I drink Core Powder.
It's super clean. So let's find it.
Go to Core Powder protein.
And then we're going to compare, if we can, and we'll get to your vitamins, we're going to compare the ingredients in your protein to like the Lineage protein that I'm going to send you. This is what you drink?
Yes.
Oh, Pat, all right.
Is that what I drink? What are you guys laughing at in the back? Bring the drink. I can hear these guys. Look at these guys. You're entertaining them. I'm just going to make it easier for you right here. Oh, my goodness. We're doing this, Rob. We are doing this.
Okay. So first ingredient, filtered low-fat grade A milk. We can talk about it. I think milk fat is very beneficial for humans, and you want whole milk if you're drinking milk, preferably. Preferably you want a raw milk or an A2 milk. We'll get to all that. There's a lactase enzyme in here, which is for people that are lactose intolerant. I have no problem with that. Sea salt, we're doing great. But then, Pat, we get to ACE-K, which is asulfame potassium. And they wrote it out as asulfame potassium.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't say ACE-K. So that's an artificial sweetener in here. And we go back to the artificial sweetener little bit that I mentioned earlier. We really don't know that these are safe for humans. They definitely affect your gut flora, and they're potentially affecting neurometabolically how your body responds to insulin and how your body manages calories. So I think that you need to not have any artificial sweeteners in your diet, and there's one in your chocolate protein drink. The next ingredient is very interesting. It's carrageenan. And this is a problem for humans. So carrageenan, there's recently been some articles talking about carrageenan. It's a sulfated polysaccharide derived from algae, but the problem is that in the processing of carrageenan, there are breakdown products of carrageenan that look to be quite harmful for the human gut. So I don't think carrageenan should be in any of our foods. It's a form of a thickener. It's used to make this thicker, so it feels like a milkshake. But carrageenan is quite potentially damaging your gut. Yeah. Next ingredient is monk fruit juice concentrate. Look, in terms of sweeteners, that's probably the most benign, but I still have some issues with monk fruit sweetener. Maltodextrin is essentially a form of sugar. You have cellulose gum, which is also probably not great for your gut. Stevia leaf extract, I'm not a fan of. Even stevia, I think, is not great for humans, but we can talk about why. Sucralose is another artificial sweetener. And then you have vitamin A palmitate, which is sort of a food form of vitamin A. I would rather you just get vitamin A from egg yolks or other forms of vitamin A. And then you have D3, and that's it. So we have the biggest offenders in here are the artificial sweeteners, so ACE-K and sucralose, the gums, so cellulose gum, and carrageenan. So the reason you drink this, presumably, is to get protein. So I think protein shakes are great for people on the go. You can make this much cleaner. And the other thing to consider, and again, I don't want people to say that I'm just making this impossible. It's in plastic, right? So how long has it been sitting on the shelf? Microplastics. So you're suggesting
only buy protein drinks in glass.
They probably don't make any of them.
Don't make it. It's going to break. Paul's not making things easier right now. So, okay, so I start off with this. Then lunch, my chef brings me my meal. And it'll typically be chicken, fish, protein, soup. And obviously, you need to know whether it's processed. By the way, about 2 years ago, we cleaned house of the closet. We got rid of not the closet, what do you call it? The pantry. We got rid of 100% of cereal. Our kids don't eat any cereal.
Amazing.
Literally, we came and said, what do we need to get rid of? And I was shell-shocked how many things we had to get rid of, right? But still, we're Middle Eastern. I am. Not everything is gone. But for the most part, the food I eat at lunch is good. Then at night, I go back, he cooks again. I have the meal with him, and then we're done. So that's what I'm eating throughout the day.
What is he cooking? What oils does he cook in?
We have to, you want me to call Jen real quick? I'm going to call him right now.
Oh, boy.
Let's just call him right now.
Let's do it.
Let's call him right now. Hang on one second.
Because I love that you're eating. If lunch and dinner, Pat, are basically protein and vegetables, we're great. As long as he's not cooking in a seed oil.
Well, let's ask him right now. And by the way, for those watching, Paul is on Manect. You can Manect him and ask him any questions you have on Manect. All right, so let's see this here, if he picks up. Alper, you're on the podcast. They can hear you. And just say hello to everybody.
Hi, everyone.
Okay, Alper, question for you. What kind of oil do you use when you cook meals? What oil do you use?
Normally, I use avocado oil.
Okay.
Okay, what do you think about that, Paul?
Avocado oil is not a seed oil. So it's better than seed oils. We can talk about potential problems with avocado.
Okay, what other questions you have for him?
I would be curious to see the actual avocado oil he's using, but what I would recommend he cook in for you, so the ideal would be an animal fat.
Animal fat.
A tallow.
Which is like butter.
A butter or a ghee or a tallow.
Clarified butter.
Better than avocado oil.
Okay, so what else would you say? Because he'll make different types of meals, soup, rice, but we don't do a lot of rice because we've cut a lot of the rice. Alper, maybe tell him a breakdown of what some of the meals may look like.
Sure, lunch is normally goes absolutely soup. Which I just want to provide some liquid and absolutely salad, with some heavy greens, with tomatoes, and the main meal is just protein, carb, and just vegetables.
What questions you have for him?
Yeah.
It sounds pretty good off the top of my head. I mean, it sounds like he's making the food from single ingredient foods, which is great.
Alper, what did we change the last 2 years? From the moment we hired you to now, what did we change dramatically with our food?
Sugar, definitely.
Can you be more specific? What part?
Like in dessert, so
right.
I'm not using any kind of added sugar, so if we just get sugar, we get sugar from onion, so but that sugar is just essential of sugar.
I love it.
So
good.
Other than that,
Okay. Alper, thank you. By the way, Alper's also on my neck, just so you guys know you can ask him a question as well. Alper, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so I'm going to call now my wife, if you don't mind.
Okay.
I want her to tell you what things we cut from and by the way, she followed you way before I followed you. She's a big fan of yours. For years, she's been following you.
Thank you.
She says, babe, do you know this guy named Paul? I like what he talks about. I'm like, babe, who is Paul? And I'm like, oh, Paul. She's in the office, but she's probably in a meeting, so she'll call me. Okay, so when she's out, she'll call me. So that's the meal, right? Then on the weekend, I'll make omelet for myself and the kids and the family. And I'll make that omelet, Saturdays and Sundays. But I don't drink. If I do, I'll have an old-fashioned once a month. And I'll talk to you about cigars and all that other stuff here in a minute. But specifically to what I'm breaking down with you right now, that's what I'm going through right now, what I eat.
Not bad.
Okay.
I mean, I think pretty good. So you're focusing on single ingredient foods, meat, plants, right? And you're not eating a lot of this stuff, and you're not eating, I think that the first thing I would do is replace the thing you're doing in the morning. So
the protein drink.
That protein shake needs to get better. And you can have a protein drink in the morning, but we're going to make it for you differently with a better protein powder with simple ingredients.
See, to me, it's like make and go. So I can have Alper make it
absolutely
the night before, so I just have it and take off.
Right. Can you do me a favor? Can you pull up the Lineage protein? I just want to show you the ingredients in our protein versus that one. Again, people can buy whatever protein they want, but I think this is the standard and why I'm so proud of it.
Which one is it?
One of those below should be the ingredients, and we'll pull it up.
Is that it?
That one, yeah. So this is what's in our protein, right? So 100% grass-fed beef protein, organic maple syrup powder, grass-fed beef organs, which is liver, heart, kidney, spleen, pancreas, organic date powder, coconut water powder, grass-fed colostrum, which is beneficial for the gut, fruit and berry blend, which is blackberries, black currants, grapes, pomegranates, blueberry, cranberry, raspberry, etc., and sea salt. So what's not here? Sucralose, ACE-K, carrageenan, no seed oils. There's actually no real artificial sweeteners. There's absolutely no artificial sweeteners. There's no binders. This is what you want in a protein.
How many grams of protein is it?
I think it's 22 or 23.
Per scoop.
You can zoom in there. 20 plus grams.
20 plus grams.
Yep.
Okay. So in the morning, no breakfast. Outside of this, I'm good with. You're not sitting here saying you should also do this. You should also do this for breakfast.
If a protein shake like this works for you, and that one has 42 grams of protein, so you might do a scoop and a half of ours, right? Or 2 scoops of ours. You want that much protein to go, that's great. And if you really wanted to make it amazing, you could add some raw milk in there, which I think is incredible. There's a great producer here in Florida.
Raw milk.
Yeah, and we can talk about raw milk if you want, but you don't have to do it. Some people are sensitive to lactose and might not want to do that. But you can put the protein powder in juice, you can put it in water, but getting some protein in the morning is great. And I think that upgrading your protein shake would be huge. And again, people don't have to buy this one. I want people to understand the simplicity of ingredients in protein powder. And if your protein powder has ingredients that, again, your ancestors would not recognize, like, be skeptical.
Okay, hang on. Jen is calling me. Give me 1 second.
Okay.
Okay, Jen, I'm doing a podcast with Paul Saladino. Do you know Paul?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Babe, what did we do with our pantry 2 years ago when we got rid of a bunch of different things? What things did we get rid of?
We removed all the cereals.
Okay.
Amazing.
All of the stuff that I felt was highly processed.
Mm-hmm.
Main thing I was looking for is like stuff that wasn't like real food that the kids were eating every day, which was mostly like the sugary cereals and the like crackers and cookies. We try to eliminate all that stuff. But the biggest one was cereal and Kraft macaroni and cheese. I got rid of all of that.
I love it. I love it.
Used to make, got rid of all of that. And then just started cooking real breakfast every morning versus having like cold cereals. We tried the raw milk for a little bit. The kids didn't like that. The raw dairy, they're not a fan of. So now I buy organic whole milk, which is the closest thing I can get to that. In years in the past, I didn't really pay attention to organics.
Yeah.
But I do now.
Paul is suggesting if we have the resources to buy 2 cows for the backyard and teach the kids how to, milk the cows. And I think we have the space for it, babe.
I don't think that we could have a cow in our neighborhood.
What about a goat? Is a goat acceptable?
Okay.
Do you have any questions for Paul with what we have in the fridge and in the pantry, since we have him here?
I do. But are you in the studio?
We're on the studio. It's live. If you want to come here, you can come here. We're over here, babe. But by the way, if you have other questions later on, you can always Manect them, babe. He's on Manect as well.
Okay, so I should just come over.
Come over here. We're over here. We're gonna wrap up in 45 minutes.
Are you recording live, though?
Babe, you're literally gonna be on the podcast, is what I'm saying to you. So say hi to everybody.
Okay, hi everybody.
Everybody says hi.
Okay.
Okay, babe. Bye. Bye.
The one thing I'll point out here, this is an interesting conversation, is the turmeric. I'm not a huge fan of turmeric. And I think that people use it as a Band-Aid. So there's some evidence for turmeric with osteoarthritis pain, but a lot of studies on turmeric have been fairly underwhelming. And there is some evidence that turmeric and the active ingredient in turmeric, curcumin, actually lower androgens in men. So they lower testosterone and other sex hormones in men. That was a prostate cancer study. So that might not be a good thing. When it comes to turmeric, what I tell people is don't cover your inflammation with a supplement. Understand what is causing your inflammation. I think that we are thinking about inflammation wrong.
What are your thoughts with TRT? A lot of people nowadays, it's, some people are saying the other day, Mark Zuckerberg getting caught, on the camera, making sure Bezos' wife was okay, is due to him possibly taking TRT. So he's extra sensitive, and your energy is fired up. And
what, she was wearing a bra or something?
I don't know what it was, but it was this moment where, and he did this without using his Facebook glasses, which was kind of interesting. But some are saying this could be because he's on TRT, he's fighting, he's doing all this other stuff, and he's at a different age right now than before. But what are your thoughts on TRT?
Oh, I saw. That's so hilarious. I think that a lot of men end up on TRT too quickly. So in terms of men, like, testosterone is super valuable. Your brain tells your testicles to make testosterone. And if a lot of men end up on TRT because they're not sleeping and eating well. And if you aligned your sleep and your eating, your testosterone will come back up. So there's, a really perfect example of this is residency. So after medical school, we go through residency, and there are long periods in residency where you don't sleep a lot. And for a lot of men and a lot of male doctors, their testosterone plummets in residency because they're only sleeping 4 or 5 hours a night. The problem here is, of course, that gives a signal to your brain. All the stress gives a signal to your brain that your testicles don't need to be producing or shouldn't be producing as much testosterone. So if a man, and the rates of this are climbing, has low testosterone, I would say look at your lifestyle, look at your sleep, and look at your diet first. And a lot of times improving those things and eating more animal foods, which contain many, many nutrients essential for optimal testosterone production, will result in your testosterone coming back up. Getting your testosterone from your testicles is the best thing you could do. If you absolutely need testosterone in terms of supplementation, I think men should do it, and they should talk to a qualified provider.
Are you on TRT? Like, do you do TRT or
no?
not?
I don't.
Have you ever done TRT?
No, I've never done it. And this is interesting because I'm 47.
Okay.
And my testosterone is 800 to 900 nanograms per deciliter. And I'm proud of that. And I show my labs all the time. I show my gonadotropins, which are the signals from my brain, to prove that I'm not on TRT. The LH and FSH will be suppressed if you're taking TRT. So I've done this. I've shown my blood work, because people sometimes say, like, you're on TRT, and no, I'm not. I've never.
How do you
taken
test to see if you're on TRT or not?
You can look at the gonadotropins, so you can just get blood work for LH, which is luteinizing hormone, and FSH. Those are the signals from the pituitary gland to the testicles. So you can test to see if people are on TRT. Yeah. And it's very obvious when someone is, at least in terms of their blood work, you can tell. But if a man needs it, some of these operators come back from overseas in war and they have damaged testicles from concussive injuries, or people can have PTSD with traumatic brain injury. And sometimes the signals are not coming from the brain. Sometimes the testicles are actually physically damaged in rugby injuries or football injuries. Fine. But a lot of men end up on TRT, and this is a symptom of the overall problem, which is the fact that we are not eating and sleeping well.
Okay. So next question. Next question is cigars, cigarettes, weed, vape, and those nicotine. What do you call it? Not what is it called? The Zen, but they call it something.
The nicotine pouches.
The nicotine. What of those 5 things, if you were to say, is there one that's less risky than other? What would you say of the 5?
Okay, so we've got nicotine pouches.
Yes.
Vape.
Yep.
Marijuana.
Yep.
Cigarettes and cigars.
Yes.
I think cigars are the least risky.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm not a fan of vaping. There are oils in the vape that have been linked to certain types of pneumonia in the lungs, and I just think vaping is gross and people shouldn't be doing it. Cigarettes are obviously horrible because the tobacco is full of pesticides and other additives. The marijuana is linked to all sorts of hormonal issues in humans. It lowers androgens in men. I think that for most people, marijuana is a very clearly a net negative thing in their life. And then the pouches, I mean, look, nicotine occurs naturally in the human body, but they're quite addictive. And I think that they're sort of the next epidemic of people kind of messing with their neurotransmitters and these signaling molecules in the human body in a not great way. And you asked me for the best one. I'm not saying cigars are great, but if you actually have a high quality tobacco leaf without a lot of pesticides, I think it's the most benign of anything in there. I don't smoke. I don't even smoke cigars. But if you want to have a cigar every once in a while, it's a different actual entity than a cigarette from Marlboro.
Got it. So in other words, listen, that's not an endorsement of smoking cigars.
No.
It's just the least of the 5.
It's probably the least harmful of the 5.
What was the worst you had of the 5?
I would say the worst is probably cigarettes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting to see where that's at. A lot of people, you'll hear people talking about nicotine is good for you. Yeah, we're in D.C. and we're outside, and I see this guy always. You remember this guy?
Yeah.
I see this one guy always in the morning and at night, Paul. He's in a corner smoking cigarettes. Okay, so I told him, I said, "Hey, John." Both guys' name is John. I say, "Hey, I see you in the morning and in the afternoon. At night, you have your cigarette appointment." He says, nicotine is actually good for you. You know what they found out? Here's what he told me. He says, they found that in front of my 2 boys, my 12 and 11-year-old son. He says, they found that people that smoke cigarettes actually didn't get the COVID virus as much as people who didn't smoke. I said, so are you telling me smoking cigarettes is good for you? He says, no. All I'm telling you is the fact that if you smoke cigarettes, you didn't get COVID as much as people that, were smoking cigarettes. Then he says, what I am saying is that nicotine is good for you. And you'll hear this argument being made by a lot of different people. What's your argument to that?
You know, like I said, nicotine occurs naturally in the human body. It is a neurotransmitter. And I think that there may be some studies that suggest that it affects the brain in a positive way, but there's always other side effects, right? So when you introduce exogenous nicotine, when you introduce excess nicotine, akin to what happens with marijuana, because cannabinoids occur naturally in the human body, there are other downstream effects in the human body. And I think that to say that nicotine supplementation or these pouches is net positive, that's a stretch. Yes, it might make you more alert. Yes, there may be some data for nicotine with regard to dementia, but I think it's going to have other negative effects in the human body. It can raise blood pressure, increase your heart rate. It's not a benign substance to be just using without caution. And I think that these pouches are quite addictive. And let's be honest, they're used as a drug. There's no question.
They're used as a drug.
They're absolutely used as a drug. These are drugs.
Okay. All right. This one upsets you a little bit. You got a little bit angry, Paul. I don't want to upset you while we're here together. All right. So, a story about fluoride in water.
Yeah.
Okay. And the link between fluoride in water with low IQ.
Yeah.
Okay. You read stuff like this, and you're kind of sitting there saying, you know, what is the level of credibility in this? And it's been written about by different people. You shared me one of the articles that, you know, you and I were going back and forth on. So what is the link between, you know, high fluoride exposure that may lead to low IQs in children?
There are a number of studies. I think there are over 50, and they're all observational, associational studies. You can't really do an interventional study with this. But I believe there are over 50 studies that are associating increasing levels of fluoride with lower amounts of IQ in kids, which is scary because humans don't need fluoride in the water. The reason fluoride is in the water is because our diets are so bad. So putting fluoride in the water, it's debatable. There may actually be a decrease in tooth decay. At what cost? Potentially lower IQs. And the reason kids are getting so much tooth decay is because of, right, all these things that we're feeding kids. And I would argue kids are having so much tooth decay because of a lack of fat-soluble vitamins in their diet. So when I talk about eating fruit, when I talk about fruit juice, when I talk about honey, sometimes people say, but isn't that going to increase decay in my teeth? And I'll say, no, it won't if you are eating meat, if you are eating animal foods. So the full etiology, the picture with tooth decay and cavities is having excess sugar in your diet with an absence or a deficiency of vitamin D, vitamin E, vitamin A, and vitamin K2. The fat-soluble vitamins, which occur in animal foods predominantly, are essential for the odontoblasts, which are the immune cells in your teeth. So I'm not telling people that they should just eat fruit or just eat honey, but if you are not getting fat-soluble nutrients in your food, which, you know, a lot of kids are deficient in because of either financial constraints or time constraints, or their parents don't understand these things, then it is ultimately that fat-soluble nutrient deficiency that is leading to cavities in humans.
Okay, so high fluoride. A parent who is trying to say, okay, I don't want my kids to have the high fluoride water, right. What do you look for?
Well, you can filter the water, but it has to be reverse osmosis. So a Brita filter doesn't get fluoride out. You have to do reverse osmosis in your house to get rid of the fluoride. But I don't think we want fluoride in the water. There are definitely some places in the world where the water has a little bit more fluoride or less, and fluoride does occur naturally in the environment, but the levels that we are getting from water or from our toothpaste, which kids inevitably swallow, is much higher than what we need. And we really are pushing way too much fluoride into children. And then the problem becomes that because the fluoride is in the water system, you water a field with fluoride, it goes into plants. You're washing your fruits and vegetables in fluoride. It's on your food. So it's pervasive. And I think
no matter what, so you're going to get it no matter what because of what's being used to grow the plants, grow fruit, grow.
It's difficult. The cows you're eating are fed water that potentially has fluoride in it. So it's pervasive, and the easiest thing would be removing it from your drinking water to decrease your exposure. But yeah, there's a lot of studies potentially linking fluoride to lower IQs. It's not something we had historically, right? And again, there's a really famous, I'll say this about tooth decay, really, really famous dentist in the 1940s named Weston Price. He traveled all over the world, and he looked at the difference in tooth health and systemic health in indigenous tribes people who were living traditionally and those who had become integrated into Western society simultaneously. So these are people who are the exact same bloodline, similar genetics, and the differences in their oral hygiene and overall health between indigenous traditional ways and westernized ways were astounding. You should find some of the photos of Weston Price and some of these people. The book is Nutrition and Physical Degeneration, but if you just Google Weston Price and These photos will come up. They are so strong. Have you seen these photos before, Pat?
I have not.
So look at this one. These are photos of traditional people. There's no dentist, right? These are smiles from tribes people throughout the world. There's no dentist. There's no braces. Those are perfect teeth and wide jaws. These people do not brush with toothpaste. They don't even floss their teeth. And there are hundreds of these photos in the books. Can you find a juxtaposition photo of some of the people who were in the tribe and some of the people who were actually westernized at the same time? Because they have side-by-side comparisons of these people, and they're just striking. You see one tribe's member, again, has this perfect smile, and the other has teeth that are just falling out. It's pretty incredible.
That's the one.
These all look like they have good teeth, but
well, not the ones on the right. If zoom in a little bit.
Yeah. Look at the difference here. Yeah.
So the ones on the left,
traditional diets, single ingredient foods, right? These people don't have processed food. Some of these tribes people file their teeth down. So there's a middle photo there. They're filing their teeth down as part of their cultural practices. But look at the smile on the top left.
Yep.
It's like the most perfect smile you've ever seen. That is what happens when a child eats animal foods, not exclusively animal foods, but that is what happens when a child eats fat-soluble vitamins and animal foods. And all of these tribes prized animal foods. They had specific foods that they fed to pregnant and nursing mothers, whether it was fish eggs or certain organs of animals. But this is what happens in tooth health when you get enough fat-soluble vitamins. And it's not like those people weren't eating honey. They eat honey. They eat carbohydrates. They're eating potatoes. They're eating sweet potatoes and things like this. But it's just the oral health is really a window to the larger
what
conversation.
does Bobby say he wants to do with that, with fluoride and water?
I think he wants to take it out.
How successful do you think he could be doing that?
Well, it's been done. You can do it at a state-by-state level. I mean, some states can change it. It's actually probably a municipality level, but I think a federal mandate to remove fluoride would be pretty interesting.
What states don't allow it? Do you know states that don't allow it?
I don't know if there's a single state. I don't know. We could look it up. I don't think at a state level there's any state, but there certainly are counties in the U.S. that do not fluoridate their water.
There it is. Hawaii is the only state that bans fluoridation. Fluoridation. Most states leave it to individual water systems or localities.
Yeah.
Interesting. So Hawaii is the only one. Jersey, less than 20% of the population served by public water versus systemic use and fluoridated water. Oregon, less than 33% of population by water systems. Idaho, 34.7%. Then it's Louisiana, then Utah. States with law mandating fluoridation. California, Delaware, Georgia, Illinois, Kentucky, Minnesota, Mississippi, Nebraska, Nevada. Some communities have voted to remove fluoride from their water systems. Mims Water in Brevard County, Florida, part of Gloverville, South Carolina, city in Iowa, Eldora, Syracuse, Indiana, Collier County, Florida, Emory, Wisconsin, State College, Pennsylvania, Brushy Creek, Texas. It'll be interesting to see what they do with this.
And if you live in a place where there is fluoride in your drinking water, just get a reverse osmosis filter. You can get them at Home Depot. They're a few $100s. They can go under the sink.
Do we have that, babe?
So I have the water delivery from Crystal Springs.
Uh-huh.
And then I have a Zero water filter. Have you ever heard of Zero?
I'm not familiar with that brand specifically.
Yeah, it's Zero.
Is it Zero water filter?
Yeah, so it's the top link. Yeah, that's it.
We could just look and see if it removes fluoride.
Do you know which one it is, babe? Is it just any of those?
It's a 5-stage filtering process that it uses. And this is the one, I use this one for like if we're going to make coffee or tea, things like that. And then the other one I have, the Crystal Springs, is the one that comes in the big, like 5-gallon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great.
What's the one you'd recommend?
I don't have a brand that I recommend, really. Most reverse osmosis will do it. Reverse osmosis will remove fluoride. This Zero water filter, I hadn't heard of it. It says it removes fluoride by 99%, but that's important, I think. And again, like tooth decay is important in kids, but fluoride is not the answer. It's better quality food.
Very cool. Okay, next question for you. There's this fellow who is really trying hard to live forever.
Did you see I have a beef with him on Twitter?
I know, I saw that. Okay. So this is him. I think this is Inside Edition. There's an episode of him explaining how tycoon spends $2 million a year trying to reverse his aging. Rob, go ahead and play this clip.
This tycoon is 45, but he wants the body of his 18-year-old self. Tech entrepreneur Brian Johnson wants to reverse the aging process in his brain, heart, lungs, liver, kidneys, teeth, skin, hair, everything. He has actually hired a team of 30 doctors and health experts. He gets up at 5:30 a.m. and mixes a concoction called the Green Giant and numerous supplements. Fitness is, of course, a big part of his routine. He works out for an hour every single day. His gym program consists of 25 different exercises, and he also regularly monitors his weight and body fat. He consumes only 1,977 calories a day on an all-vegan diet. To keep track of his health, Johnson undergoes numerous blood tests, ultrasounds, and MRIs. Dr. Rigved Tadwalker says trying to reverse the aging process could be dangerous.
Anything taken to an extreme, including a mix of supplements, excessive exercise, excessive changes to the diet, can potentially be harmful to the body.
He puts 7 different creams on his face to reverse sun damage. So, is any of this working? His doctors claim he has the heart of a 37-year-old, the skin of a 28-year-old, and the lung capacity of an 18-year-old.
So, what do you think about him?
So I think Brian and I need to have an MMA match. This is the formal challenge. Like, let's just
get it knocked out of the way.
We will settle this like men. We'll see who the real, champion is. He's the same age as me. So I think he's 46 or 47. So it's completely
he's
fair.
47, August 22nd.
Yeah. How much does he weigh? Let's see what weight class he'd be in.
You're actually being serious. You'd want to do this.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Oh, that'd be fun. Okay. He weighs 174 pounds.
So he's a little heavier than me, but I'll still take him. I'm 165.
You're calling him out.
I'm calling him out. No, but think about it. I will tell you what I think about him scientifically. I respect the effort. I've heard he's a really nice guy in person. I think that he has a big team behind him who's feeding him a lot of the information, and I disagree with a lot of the things that he suggests.
Such as?
Vegan diet does not promote health and longevity in humans. In order to have blood markers that look reasonable, he has to take over 111 supplements a day. He was on testosterone. He claims to not be on testosterone now. I called him out about this on Instagram. He has not proven that he is not still taking TRT. He makes this claim that he is the healthiest man in the world, and I think that's disingenuous when you must take TRT because your sex hormones decline so much because you're eating a calorie-restricted vegan diet. So it's unquestionable that a vegan diet is nutrient deficient. It's unquestionable. So in order to fill in the gaps that he's even aware of, he must take 60 plus supplements. Like I said, over 110 pills a day. Many of the things he's supplementing are actually found in meat. So he takes creatine, he takes collagen, he takes taurine. These are all found in animal foods. And I don't think a calorie-restricted diet is the way for humans to live a long way. It gets into kind of the esoteric nature of some of these studies. But I think that what's interesting about what he's doing is there are people living, now there's a rejuvenation Olympics or longevity Olympics, and there are people who are beating him who eat meat and spending a lot less than his protocol. So he is not winning the rejuvenation Olympics. He's doing well in them, but there are people like, I think his name's Dave Pascoe is one of these guys who are actually have better markers than Brian in terms of speed of aging that eat meat and do a completely different protocol. So I think it's a little bit strange. Yeah, this guy. So Dave Pascoe, I think, is in his 60s. And there's articles and stuff about him. And there's other people that have been featured. Brian also fears the sun. I think, like we said, sunlight is essential.
He has an umbrella when he goes outside.
He goes outside with an umbrella.
Why is that? Because
he's afraid. He doesn't want any sun damage on his skin.
That's why.
Yeah.
You ever seen the movie Powder? Rob, can you put the movie Powder movie? Do you remember this movie? Put the movie Powder?
I've never seen this.
You've never seen the movie?
No.
His skin is he looks like, his skin is super pale.
It's so pale. It's so pale.
And in the movie Powder, his parents were afraid of him. Do you remember this story, Rob? Have you ever seen this or no?
Yeah, I believe he was struck by lightning.
He was struck by lightning, and his parents were afraid of putting him out. And so he was in a basement, never got the sun. He looked like that. So his skin tone kind of super pale.
It's kind of similar.
Yeah.
So I love the...
Have you guys ever done a podcast together?
We haven't. So I respectfully have asked him on multiple occasions to do a discussion, and he's declined. And I called him out on Twitter a few days ago, and he's still declining. He's kind of avoiding it. Because okay, so another thing about Brian, he came out on Twitter or X, and he said he actually believes seed oils are healthy for humans, which I debate very strongly. And he continues to suggest that red meat is harmful for humans or shortens your life. I just saw a clip of him on another podcast saying that one hamburger shortens your life 20 minutes or something, which is just an absurd claim. I mean, the meat in the hamburger is not what's shortening your life. I would say that there are so many unique compounds in animal meat, especially red meat, that are associated with longevity: vitamin B12, creatine, taurine, vitamin K2, anserine, all sorts of compounds. To say that red meat shortens your life is really kind of a silly thing. But I guess if you're having a burger with a bun with 60 ingredients and seed oils, you might be able to make that argument, but he's not qualifying that.
Got it. This is the tweet. First, you say seed oils are good for humans. I do not understand the literature. Now you're citing horrible observational research to suggest red meat is bad for humans. Come on my podcast so we can discuss respectfully. I'll be waiting. Got it. Well, we'll see if he will, if you guys will do your a podcast together or not. It'd be interesting to see because, again, he has a lot of people. He was on can you play that clip? He was on Flagrant Podcast, and they asked him, how old are you? And the way he broke it down was very interesting. Play that clip, Rob.
Old, but what would your true age be?
I'm hundreds of different ages. My left ear is 64. My heart is 37. My cardiovascular capacity is in the top 1.5% of 18-year-olds. My diaphragm is age 18. The only way to understand age is you have to look at every organ of the body and then age that organ. And so you know intuitively that a baby's heart is different than a 90-year-old heart. They look different, they function different, they have different cells. And so we basically said, how do you age every part of my body?
Sorry, the ear thing is like your hearing is bad or just the ears? Because I know ears continue to grow. Is that all it is?
Looking at my ability to hear sounds. So between 4,000 hertz and 12,000 hertz, I'm basically deaf because I shot a lot of as a kid. I was right-handed, and so I got the exposure on my left ear.
Holy shit.
And so we still haven't been able to figure out how to fix aging or hearing damage on the ear.
You're 46 years old.
So your thoughts on what he just said? Hundreds of different ages.
Yeah, it's a little bit arbitrary. So they're using metrics that are not corrupt, like not substantiated. He's kind of saying, my heart is 37 years old. Well, I mean, how do you know your heart? He's comparing it to other people. So it's not a bad series of metrics, but I do think it's a little bit misleading for people. Yeah. Again, I think his intention is great, but I think that the way he's doing it is misleading.
I'd be curious enough for you guys to sit down.
MMA fight.
Yeah. Well, listen, I'm sure it can be pulled off. And
because what is the ultimate test of longevity than how much you can fight for your
life?
Yeah, I mean, so he actually emailed me and he was going to have me over to his house to do a workout, and then his team kind of flaked on it. So I'm still open to that. I think it would be interesting for people to see me and Brian do things together.
I think a long form podcast with the two of you guys doing it would be very entertaining.
Yeah, it would be really
to see different views.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask this last question, then babe, whatever question you got, I know you got a couple questions. We'll go to you as well. So SNAP, which used to be called food stamps, and now they call it SNAP. And not as in food stamps changed to Snapchat. They literally changed the name for food stamps to SNAP because it's called Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program. I didn't even know they changed it, but apparently they changed it because they said food stamps was a little bit offensive, so they kind of wanted to find a different name for it. It is what it is. The name was changed in 2008 to reduce stigma associated with the program, since we've had food stamps in place since 1939. It is what it is. Okay. So this article, food stamps, crazy stats, 75% of the $115 billion spent in SNAP funding goes to processed food, and 10% of all SNAP food stamp funding goes to soda. You share this with me.
How crazy is that?
How crazy. So, but how do you process that information?
Corruption, criminal lobbying at the level of Congress. This is the way it works. These big food companies lobby to Congress under the guise of classism, elitism, or racism, and say these foods have to be available on food stamps. And then what do humans in the most susceptible parts of the world and the most susceptible income classes do? But they buy junk food. 10% of food stamps, SNAP funding goes to soda. I mean, why is soda even allowed to be used on food stamps? I think the argument against this idea, or for this idea, is that this is all that's available for humans. But it's crazy, right? Like water comes out of the tap. A lot of it's fluoridated, as we talked about, but humans can drink things besides soda. I don't understand why any junk food is allowed to be purchased with food stamps, but 75% of food stamp purchases are junk food. I mean, and the problem here is that this gets full circle because taxpayers pay for food stamps. So our taxes, your taxes, my taxes go to pay for the food stamps program. And then our taxes go to pay for the medical care when people get sick from these ultra-processed foods. And I think at this point, it's really incontrovertible to suggest that these foods are not making people sick. You can look at historically, you can look at those people we had from Weston Price. I mean, these foods are, I would say, the single greatest driver of chronic illness, which is one of the single greatest drivers of healthcare spending, which is one of the single greatest drivers on our economy and the health of our nation available. And people can use food stamps fund to buy these foods, which is making us sick. And then our tax dollars go to pay for healthcare on the back end of all of this. So it's just this vicious cycle. Everyone is connected together. We talked about it a little earlier in the podcast. The FDA is captured, the NIH is captured, the USDA is captured, and they're all connected with pharma. I don't think we mentioned it on the podcast yet, but 47% of the funding for the FDA comes from the pharmaceutical industry.
47%.
Yeah, I sent this to you. 47%. And it's funny because Bobby Kennedy got called out. He said 50%. And they said, no, it's only 47%.
Stop it.
Yes, I sent that to you in our text thread. Yeah.
God.
47% of the funding for the FDA in the United States comes from pharma. And you wonder why these policies are in place. It's all connected, right? It's all just this evil web. And it's not for the health of Americans. It's for the profit and the bottom line of these agribusiness companies. And so it's very clear, like there is no reason for food stamps to be able to be used for junk food and soda. That would change the health of the country almost overnight if people could only use food stamps. I mean, I proposed something, hopefully I'll get to talk to Bobby about it soon, but I think HSA funds, so health savings account funds, should be expanded. And I think HSA funds should be able to be used for single ingredient foods. So HSA funds are pre-tax money. And I think you should be able to use pre-tax dollars to buy any single ingredient food. So I tweeted about this.
Have you and Bobby done anything or no? Have you guys?
Not yet. We're waiting till he's after he's confirmed.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very, very interesting. Listen, I can talk to you forever because to me, one of the things one of the guys said in the back, which I'm curious to know what you say about this. You'll hear about back in the days I used to drink RC Cola. I'm talking 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Part of it wasn't because I liked RC Cola. Part of it was because we were broke. And RC was cheap Coke. It was half the price of Coke, so we would drink RC Cola. You would hear stuff about Coke in Mexico uses different kind of sugar than the Coke here, which is healthier to drink your Coke from Mexico to here. What can you say about that?
The Coke in Central America does use sugar. So it uses sucrose, and here we use high fructose corn syrup. To me, it's it's very similar. The processing of high fructose corn syrup is perhaps a little bit worse, and there were old studies that suggest that high fructose corn syrup was highly contaminated, or at least significantly contaminated with heavy metals. But I don't think sucrose is significantly better than high fructose corn syrup. I don't think high fructose corn syrup is great either. But it is true that in Mexico and Costa Rica, the Coca-Cola has sucrose, which is essentially cane sugar that's been purified, versus high fructose corn syrup. But I think that anytime you strip away all of these other chemicals that are in a food, these hundreds or thousands of chemicals, you are creating something that's problematic for the human gut. Have you ever had sugarcane juice?
Mm-mm.
It's really good. It's actually green. So a sugarcane, you seen a sugarcane? It's
of course. You
ever chewed on a sugarcane?
Yes, of course.
It's really good.
Right.
Yeah. And there are these sugarcane presses.
Yes.
Yeah, that's sugarcane juice. There are studies in humans showing benefits to sugarcane juice. But when you pull, because there are hundreds of chemicals, that's a complex food matrix. Even as the juice, when you separate it from the cane, it's a complex food, and your body knows what to do with it, and your gut flora doesn't get overly stimulated. You don't get dysbiosis from sugarcane juice. So there's human studies with sugarcane juice showing health benefits, but you pull the sucrose out of it, and you get problems. Or you take corn, and you make the glucose in corn into high fructose corn syrup, through isomerization and other processes, and you end up with something that's toxic for the human gut. So I don't think Mexican Coke, or whatever it's called colloquially, is much better than regular Coke, but it does have an interesting conversation about the sugar.
Okay. Jen, what's on your mind?
Yeah, so it's interesting
Jen,
how...
you want to get a little closer to the mic?
Yeah. It's funny because I have actually known about you for quite some time. And I told Patrick, shared some of your videos with him, probably a couple of years ago, mostly the ones like where you'd freeze the liver and put it in the freezer.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you'd like literally take like bites of liver in the morning. So I kind of went down this, direction whenever I watched the Liver King video a couple of years ago, and I learned about Nourishing Traditions. This is a book by Sally Fallon, which is where I learned about Weston Price. So all the information that you shared about him, I'm very familiar with it. But so it's really interesting, this whole cycle or journey of learning how to eat healthy. And so I guess one of my questions would be about the water in our house. Yeah. So do you have a water filter? Should we have a water filter on our home? Like, for our entire water system, because you mentioned about the fluoride in the water, that's something that
You're talking shower, everything.
Yes, I'm talking about everything.
I think if someone can afford it, you should have a whole house water filter, because it's just more than the fluoride. It's the chlorine and the chlorine derivatives. I think over 90% of the tap water in the United States has at least one carcinogen in it. You can look at, I believe it's Environmental Working Group has tap water resources, and you can pick your city and you can see where it is. So you can look up the water and the municipal water in Los Angeles or the municipal water in Austin, Texas. And there are usually 20 to 30 contaminants in there. And when you are showering, it's often hot water. Your pores are open and you can absorb that. So is this the first thing to worry about? No, we kind of went through a hierarchy of things to do for your health. But if you're interested and people have the resources, a whole house filter is a great idea, because I don't want to be swimming. Like, look, I was in New York a little while ago, and you look at the water on New York and nobody's going to go swimming in that water because it's polluted. Well, what are you showering in, right? And you're showering in pesticides, you're showering in chlorine derivatives, you're showering in pharmaceutical drugs, because those end up in the water supply. I mean, look at your municipal water on Environmental Working Group, and you'll be astounded at what's actually in that. And even if you're not drinking it, showering in it is an exposure. So I think a whole house filter is a very good investment.
Yeah, I've seen some, and they're very pricey.
I don't think you need something crazy pricey, but I think it's a good investment. I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
What else, babe?
Okay, good. So there's a lot of talk about the red meats and lots of, meats in your diet. But what about fish and seafood? Are you one that eats those type of foods?
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of red meat. I think that 200 to 300 years ago, fish was great. And today it's a little more polluted than other foods. And so I don't eat a lot of fish. If you're eating fish instead of junk food, you're doing great. But people need to know that, number one, Atlantic salmon is entirely farm raised. There's no such thing as a wild Atlantic salmon. Farmed fish in general has higher levels of all sorts of problems: PCBs, polychlorinated biphenyl compounds, PFAs, forever chemicals in farmed fish. So you do not want to eat farmed fish, which includes every single Atlantic salmon ever. Even if you're eating wild fish, the levels of heavy metals are pretty high, whether it's arsenic, mercury, cadmium, lead, etc. Fish in general has higher levels of microplastics and higher levels of forever chemicals. So it's just, fish is a tough thing for me. Bottom feeders or shellfish have higher levels of certain heavy metals. So even like scallops or shrimp. Yeah. I mean, it's not going to kill you, but I always get a little worried when people are pescatarian. If they make the majority of their protein intake centered around fish, I just urge them to get tested for heavy metals and understand their exposure there. So I don't think a pescatarian diet is a great idea for humans. The whole idea of a pescatarian diet usually comes from people fearing red meat. And I think red meat has been incorrectly vilified. I've talked about that a bunch. I'm a huge apologist for red meat. I think it's an incredibly healthy food for humans. So I don't think you can never eat fish. I just think that you need to be aware of what's in it. And certainly some of the high heavy metal fish like swordfish or mahi or shark, the bigger fish, very, very high levels of heavy metals. And there are recorded, documented cases of people getting, it's called Hatterism, in reference to the Mad Hatter in Alice in Wonderland. So Hatterism is a
tendency to be negative.
That's haterism. We need one more T. That's haterism. Wow. Look up Hatterism. Hatterism is mercury toxicity. So apparently the hat makers used to get Hatterism from mercury exposure. And Hatterism is just the historical reference to mercury toxicity. And that's been documented from people eating too much fish and sushi. You can actually get Hatterism. Wow. So yeah, it's not something to take lightly. There are a lot of famous people, Tony Robbins, other folks who have actually gotten pretty significant mercury and other heavy metal toxicity from eating a lot of fish.
Wow.
So yeah, these are real cases of of this happening. Yeah.
Yeah, this is. It was common among hatters in 18th and 20th century to use mercury to
stiffen the felt.
Tremors, symptoms: tremors, irritability, slurred speech, depression, shyness, low self-confidence, apathy, personality changes, memory loss, and headaches. Wow.
This is the Mad Hatter in Alice in Wonderland.
Wow.
That's his character.
There you go.
Wow.
Yeah, not haterism, hatterism. So I think fish is, again, it's a single ingredient food. Don't fear it, but I wouldn't make it the majority of your protein intake.
Paul, this has been great, babe. Thank you for that.
Thank you so much. Great to meet you.
Yeah.
We're gonna put these things below. Rob, put the links below to
You
this
like those?
one. I like this one.
It's so good.
So I don't know which ones. I've eaten this thing throughout the entire podcast. It's awesome. And I'm going to try your the protein one you're
powder.
talking about.
I brought you some creatine also. You don't take creatine.
At all.
You need to be taking
Tell me why.
So creatine is
I've taken creatine before, but that was 25 years ago.
But creatine is the easiest hack for people. So you should be taking creatine also. Women, kids can take creatine. It's a super safe supplement. So creatine is a phosphate donor. It's basically an energy intermediate in the human body. And it's basically pennies a day for one of the single most studied and safe substances on the planet. It's made by the human body, but when we get enough, everything works better. So creatine, it's almost a neurotropic. You know, it's a nootropic. Like if you're sleep deprived, there's evidence creatine is beneficial. Muscle recovery, explosiveness. Like creatine is very easy to take for humans and valuable. And I figured you might not be taking it, so take 5 grams of creatine a day. It's incredible. A lot of people I know have stopped drinking coffee because they take creatine.
Really?
Yeah, because it's a nootropic.
And is it, back in the day, they used to say, drink your creatine with grape juice, any of that stuff. Is that still the case? Or
No, you don't
just
have
water?
No, just water is fine.
got
I
it.
mean, you might have to get a little bit more fluid during the day, but it's super safe.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to put the link for both. I'm going to try the creatine. We're going to put the protein
I'm gonna
stuff
send you
below, and the
some
website
protein.
will be
Yeah,
there as well.
yeah.
And aside from that, this has been a blast. Folks, watching this, if you got any questions, I'm sure you do. Family, cleaning out the what do you call it? Pantry, all this stuff. You may want to ask the man a question. He is on Minect, wealth of knowledge. Use it. You just saw me use it for the last 2 hours. Paul, I appreciate you. This was fantastic.
Thanks for having me
Appreciate you
on.
for coming out. This was great. Thank you. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Hey guys, I am Paul Saladino. You can find me on Minect if you have any questions about diet, health, recovering from chronic illness or autoimmune disease. I'm excited to connect with you guys all there, and I'll see you in there.